All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push one. Let's see if my microphone is oh, okay, I got a confirmation. Word. Hey, welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode number 35, open chat. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. All right. Thank you for all the confirmations, man. DJ Moss, what up? Ty City, what it do? DE Raptor, Shalom. AF8, what's up? Earl Owens, what's up? King David, peace to you. Perky Trader, what's going on? Yeah, man. I meant to go over this Sunday because I heard from that other hangout, that other network. They were having a conversation with Tommy Sotomayor and Kevin Samuels, and Tommy brought up something that I thought was really, really poignant. And he asked a question. He said something to the effect that I'm paraphrasing, that BWs like thugs, and somebody had, I guess, tried to deny this claim. And he said, "Well, look at the L Party. Who look at the way they dress. What kind of characteristics of masculinity are they trying to emulate? Are they trying to dress like, Obama with a suit and tie, or are they trying to emulate the worst forms of caricature of black of BMs?" And the panel, when he said that, and when you have silence in that regard, it's something called an identity quake. So let me share my screen real quick. Let me share my screen. And if you want to get on the panel and engage in this conversation, there will be a link in the chat. Once you click the link and you're in the waiting room, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Or else you'll be sitting there for quite some time. So let me share my screen real quick. So identity quakes, personal core shockers. You're in the middle of a conversation with someone, or you're going through an event that is particularly stressful. During these moments of crisis, something is said or something happens that completely upsets you in a degree you've never imagined possible. You feel shaken to your very core. Welcome to the world of an identity quake. So basically, to summarize, what an identity quake does is it what happens here is that when you present information that challenges the beliefs of those who are holding on to these synthetic thoughts. For example, if someone said America is a great country, right? They hold the American flag, they're a proud American, MAGA hats everywhere. When you reveal what happened only 100 years ago or even 150 years ago, then they don't want to talk about it because the facts contradict their beliefs. In this regard, what happens here is with this conversation that Tommy Sotomayor, shout out to Tommy, what he revealed was facts based on the anecdotal evidence and the observations of a community. And the people on the panel did not have an actual response because they couldn't deny what he was saying was true. It is true. And so I chose to use the image of young MA specifically because this person typifies everything of what Tommy was talking about. And what's happening here is, if you listen to young MA's music, you listen to the lyrics, you can hear all of the language of this sort of person, which is what we consider a pookie or a thug. This is supposed to be a female who's talking like this, and this female artist is talking about sleeping with other BWs, the girlfriends and the wives of BMs openly. There's actually a video clip on YouTube of her being at a concert and her sticking her hands in the pants of this random woman, a random BW in the crowd at a concert. She got on stage and basically licked her fingers after she did that. No one had anything to say about it. But to Tommy's point, these same people are unwilling to talk to BMs who date WWs because they consider those BMs to be divesting from the community. So there's an unwillingness on behalf of this demographic of people who believe, who hold on to these beliefs that don't really have any progressiveness to it. Where it starts at is where it stops at. And in listening to that exchange between Tommy Sotomayor and Kevin Samuels, shout out to Kevin Samuels, the image guy. He was on the panel as well. They did not have an actual response because they cannot defeat the truth. And thus an identity quake takes place. But I want to go into this a little bit further because what they're denying is their guilty pleasure. Because that's how they identify Black masculinity in BMs. The tattoos, the fitted hats, all of the cosplay that young MA is doing. That's exactly what it is. It's basically masculine cosplay. But that's how they identify masculinity. So how come they won't put on a suit and tie if they consider themselves to be identifying with masculine characteristics? How come they're not doing it? Because it's a masculinity in the Black community for BMs is a construct. It's a social construct. It's just made up. They don't really have. It's not rooted in anything tangible. It's just based on violence. It's based on poverty. It's based on criminality. And what's happening here is they're using that to rationalize how they interact with BMs. And if you don't fit this sort of stereotype, this sort of construct, if you will, you fall out of the realm of respect. But if you were to engage with WMs, if you're a BM, you engage with WWs, then what happens here is you're not supposed to be spoken to. There's no respect for you. And this is the sort of cyclical rate of failure that is constantly going around, not just in social media, but in offline too. And I always find it interesting that the people who have so much to say about BMs who date and marry out are quick to defend young MA. But at the same time, they have a problem with the Tea Party. But what they don't realize is that the very support that you have for the L Party has also created a loophole so that the Tea Party can come in too. See, these social constructs are actually toxic. They're poisonous in their attempt to redefine masculinity for BMs, but keep femininity for themselves. And then they're highly confused. They're highly confused that the same BMs that they have no respect for aren't going out there to actually build anything for them. Why would they do that? You've already marginalized a particular group. 30% of BMs who are college educated are marrying out, which is what Kevin Samuels was touching on that same panel. But they're not to be spoken to because of their choice in partner. But young MA and those who emulate that sort of characteristic, suddenly they're viable for the community and they should be spoken to. And so where we are right now is that you have these people who are pushing this this masculine construct to say this is how we identify BMs, and if you don't fit this, then screw you. But then I ask the question, if that's what you prefer, how come they're not out there building anything right now? How come they're sitting on YouTube and social media for 8 hours a day talking about they cook people? How come they're not out there doing volunteer work? I don't see them. Well, you have to understand how they grew up, and maybe they grew up in poverty or something like that. That's BS, because I know plenty of BWs who did not grow up in poverty and they do the same exact thing. So where did they get that from? Well, you got to understand it's the media. Really? So at what point do you take responsibility for the masculine constructs that you've put out, that you're supporting and that you're constantly perpetuating for BMs? Let me open up the panel for everybody. Man of Tomorrow, what's going on? Super Triz, what's up, man? Ty City, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
Complex Design, what's going on?
Yo.
I don't know if you all had the opportunity to see that exchange between Tommy Sotomayor and the failed network over there.
I saw little snippets or parts or whatever.
Let me ask you this. Number one, Mike, can you respect everybody? Can you post that link in the chat? Just the link? Is that possible, or is that too much?
Of what?
Of the exchange you were referring to.
Oh, I think they took it down. They took it down.
Oh, okay. Well,
yes.
I think that that, believe it or not, even if it was a negative exchange, I'm sure it lended some sort of credibility to that other, platform, because of the gravity of Tommy Sotomayor. So even if that exchange didn't go, the way that quote unquote network wanted it to go, they just have that they just have more exposure because of it. And you have some people who are contrarians and who are going to go against the grain anyway. So even if they see the actual ideologies dispelled, they'll still side with And then based on that, and then also, you have people who just don't like Tommy Sotomayor. And so people go to Tommy Sotomayor just to be in his chat section and say disparaging comments about him while he's doing the stream. And so now they see somebody who opposes Tommy Sotomayor. I mean, I'm sure their channel grew even bigger. I'm gonna just be honest.
Yeah, the channel might have grown, but they did not recruit the revenue that Tommy did. Right? What I'm saying here is it was a bad move on their part, and Tommy came in and basically silenced the panel with that one statement. And he actually referred to Kevin Samuels as the ideal BM that should be promoted. But if you listen to them talking about how they identify masculinity, Kevin Samuels doesn't fall within that category at all. In fact, young MA, like Tommy was pointing out, and I'm using her as an example.
Hey, Mike, she's an excellent example because I want maybe a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. I forgot the young kid name, man. Kodak Black said he was smash young MA, right?
Yeah.
And people were on his ass. They was calling him gross. How could he want to do that? And if you think about it, right, he a grimy cat. His counterpart, his feminine counterpart would be something like young M.A., right? But they were actually mad because he viewed her as a female, bro. It was the weirdest shit ever, dog.
That is pretty strange, man.
It's not uncommon, though. It's not uncommon that somebody like him would think that he could turn her feminine, right, by dicking her down.
Well, I mean, I know I guess what it is, it's conceptually, right? Like let's take the veneer. Like let's ignore the veneer for just a second. Let's just look at what we're talking about here, right? Mm-hmm. This is a guy saying, "Hey, that's a woman. Yeah, I'd do her." Mm-hmm. And I mean, just on that premise alone, I mean, you shouldn't think anyway that what he said was something that was like outlandish.
It's actually for shock and awe, right? It's meant to shock that presses, right? That, whoa, I'll do this to her. Like in reality, the strippers and stuff that he gets with, far outclass her, right? The whole right. I mean, her perspective on masculinity ties directly into what Tommy was saying, and they on the other side don't want to accept that, despite the idea. Despite the example is an actual fact that this is how they identify masculinity and why they're not getting anywhere.
Right. I on the other side is there's no counter to that. That's what I'm saying is you can't say that that's a female, a straight fact. You know what I'm saying? They instead of looking at it from her angle, they look at it from his angle and they try to like put all the labels and stuff on him.
Right.
That's what I mean. It's like it's like, okay, well, that was a guy saying that, yeah, I'd like to have sex with a woman. I mean, there's nothing weird about that. Okay. It's only weird when we're talking about who we're talking about. Okay.
But you got to understand what the construct is. She's supposed to choose him. His opinion don't matter. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
She wouldn't choose him considering.
Correct.
That, you know what I mean? Considering, right?
That's why it was an outrage, because he opened his mouth when it was somebody that she wouldn't like. This is the problem when you don't put productivity first. You find every other reason in the world to try to be masculine other than productivity. And these dudes, they've doubled down on it, they've tripled down on it, they've quadrupled down on it. Mm-hmm. They have to care about what these women think. They don't have an individual identity outside of what these women think about them. Because if they were to have an individual identity outside of that, they would have to wake up in a world where they cannot compete anywhere in the world, dude. So,
but man, tomorrow these women are suffering from the same thing. That's why they want to be this stereotypical. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
correct.
It's like, it's the El Camino. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It's the truck. But it say if I want to be a car, I'm gonna be the car that women like.
Yeah. They want to be the Firestorm Matrix, pretty much.
Right. Mhm.
I mean, they really want to be a blend of both, and while simultaneously not held to any type of standards. What it is an enforcement of non-standards.
Right.
It's just a lower rung of an enforcement of non-standards, and and that's all it is. And this is why you never take these people seriously, and this is why this is why you got to be an AA battery to that damn hot air balloon that they keep floating up and down, because you got to be on top of this stuff every single time they open their mouth, because the more you point it out how ridiculous this is, it becomes in the social consciousness, because a lot of people are in situations to where they live with people like this, that they're in charge of people like this, to where their voice is totally like not even available to even be looked at. So when we talk openly about how wrong this is, a lot of people see it as, oh, okay, all right, this is what's happening. Because a lot of people see this stuff and they're straight up confused, man. I mean, for me, it's not confusing. They have a very singular mission, which is to erase masculinity, the traditional form of it, through productivity, and femininity, which is the raising of a child. They want to erase both simultaneously at the same time. So that way, no standards apply to them. So
Right.
that way, yeah, that's the thing. It's just another way of not applying any standards. And it isn't what the person says, it's who supports it. It's who supports it and how widespread it is that this person have any type of notoriety. Period. I mean, because this speaks, quote unquote, to a lot of people. For what reason, I have no idea. But that's where we are. And as long as the Black Male Anti-Defamation League is on top of it, we're going to keep explaining it every single day that we're here. So that way we can make sure that this stuff can be long in the past, because their time is up. Their event horizon is over. They're now on the back end of being relevant. And they cannot live in the world that they created for other people. So this is why you have to see them keep trying to recreate the wheel over and over and over again, only to fail and fail and fail. I enjoy seeing it because I never considered these people actually people in the first place. But that's all I got. Thanks.
It's an interesting I mean, if you can kind of get your sort of you can kind of suspend your own personal feelings about things and just really kind of take an objective view at it. I mean, this stuff is extremely thought-provoking and provocative, man. It's like, I think, Mike, you have a really, really strong point there. It's like, okay, if like this is the image of Black masculinity right here, and I mean, and it's validated by a woman parading as such.
Well,
and then there's a culture, and then culturally it's accepted to the point that when a man makes a statement like, yeah, I'd have sex with her, right?
Well, beyond
like,
Kodak, take Kodak Black out of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Put young MA next to what's old boy that got popped in LA last year?
Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey Hussle. And look at the support that Nipsey Hussle got from BWs, and then look at the way that young MA emulates that same characteristic.
Oh yeah, put them side by side, just look at them together.
Yeah, but that's my point, right? But
yeah,
if you let them tell the story.
Matter of fact, Mike, look at that picture in the upper left-hand corner with the white T-shirt.
This one?
No, next to it. No, upper left-hand corner. That's a carbon copy of Nipsey Hussle. I've seen pictures of Nipsey Hussle that look just like that.
That's what I'm saying. Right? And if you were on Instagram at the time, at the height of Nipsey's murder, his passing, and you see all of these BWs on Instagram going berserk, throwing up "rest in peace" and "I'll always miss you." You never even met Nipsey, right?
They made his death look bigger than Tupac, Biggie, Eazy-E. Like they made this guy death and the coverage of his funeral look that big. I mean,
Because
but you
You
have
know
to
what? You know what,
I get
MOT?
what you're saying, though, Mike.
Nipsey
You know,
Nipsey Hussle's death was bigger than Nelson Mandela's death.
sure was.
bigger than Elijah Cummings.
hey, Mike, I get what you're
Nobody
saying,
even
though.
talked
You
about
ain't heard nothing about Elijah Cummings.
Right, from these same people, right, who claim to be pro-black. You see what I'm talking about? That's the stuff that is what I'm trying to focus on. Like how they identify masculinity always seems to be in this sort of cosplay complex.
Well,
But this situation right here is like a female who is like, I know what females like. I'm a female, and this is what I would be if I wanted to get a female. Like, I mean,
Now,
when you see this going on, it's just like it's like what you said. Like that's what they want for themselves.
and they're playing right into it, despite the fact that they cannot walk in the shoes of a Ty City or anybody from the Black Brain Trust, right? They can emulate what you have, but they cannot actually produce the masculinity necessary to keep that up. So they got to spend a lot of money on BWs to satisfy them. But nobody ever calls them Simpson non-select.
well, Mike, you have to
Is there
understand why they're doing it.
is there a non-select and a simp and do these exist in this paradigm right here that we're looking at?
No, it does not.
Do they have
No,
those?
it does
Do
not.
they have those equivalences? I'm curious.
No, it
No.
does not. And see, that's the beauty of it because they're able to adopt these quote unquote pseudo masculine characteristics without any of the accountability that comes along with it. Like for instance, like I've seen with my own eyes in Houston, just being there. I've seen a woman go from a transition of dating men. A woman I work with, she was dating men with kids. Yeah, she had 4 kids. She was dating men, and then all of a sudden, she decided to become, quote unquote, alphabet community. And so once she made that transition, right, the standards that she had for men that she would accept all of a sudden changed. Now, she wanted a certain thuggish look, but all of a sudden, like the woman that she ended up being with, I kid you not, was like 5'3". Now, mind you, all the men that she dated, they had to be over 6 foot. Like she would say it all the time. I remember we'd be at the nursing station. She just blurted out, "Yeah, he's too short." Because some guys would try to talk to her when they would come in to visit families. Like, "Oh, he's too short to talk to me." Then the woman that she ended up with was like, sagged the pants, skinny, short, probably like 5'3". Yeah, and then that woman got beat up by a feminine looking woman.
Right.
How is that? Now how are you supposed to be the man?
Dog,
and then you got beat up by a feminine woman who was bigger. The woman was bigger, but still was a feminine woman.
Hey, Trish, keep it a bug, bro. I'll knock Young and made a hell out, bro.
Hey, I wasn't gonna say it. I wanted to say it a long time ago.
No, I mean metaphorically speaking, Ty City would do something like that. But if we go back to the gas station incident last month with the Arabs in those 2 El Caminos, everybody was saying, "Oh, I can't believe you would do that to a woman."
Hey,
But
man.
that's not how they projected their energy, right? They projected this masculine energy, but they were surprised that there would be some reciprocation of also masculine energy in return.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the Arabs, man. They came out the huddle, no huddle offense. Everybody knew what to do. It was like, man, cover 3, man. We practiced it 1,000 times. Yeah,
Pooh
but
wasn't having that shit.
I mean,
No.
yeah, no, man. He wasn't having that, dude. Like it's like, look, we about to show you real quick what we think of all this right here.
Yeah, and I just found this really interesting. It's it's interesting that somebody said that Nipsey Hussle's funeral was bigger than Mandela's. It was even bigger than the king of Pan-Africanism, Robert Mugabe, who actually led the liberation and built a country, not a state, not a city, not a town, not a neighborhood, not a block, a whole country on his back. No celebration for him, but for Nipsey, he never even performed in the Lakers Forum, and yet he's in there getting buried, getting mourned in there. It's just really weird how their perspective is being
But Mike,
projected.
but Mike, they're creating a level of masculinity that they can control, and every time they keep recreating it, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But at the end of the day, they're comfortable with it because they're better than the so-called caricature that they put out there. And that's the thing is you can't really do nothing but just sit back and create your own community. Like this is why these people preempt all the words that they should never be associated with, like pro-black, community, black first. This is why they do that. They want to be first to market without having the standard or the responsibility associated with it. And then they expect everybody else to build what the concept is. So this is why you walk away from all the concepts and turn everything into a merit-based thing. Because once you turn everything into a merit-based thing, these people don't have any type of existence in the real world. And this is what I say black people should go to. Black people should go through having merit-based systems. So that's way you can't have all this mouthpiece, swag, and game, and just pretty much being subservient to a power that's not even supportive of you. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to compete, but their job is not to compete, period. While wanting all the benefits of competing, while everybody else works on it on their behalf just because they're, melanin content people. That's crazy.
Ooh. Ooh. But
hey Mike, you get Mike, you get in a tussle with Young Ma, right? And she gets you in a headlock. What you gonna do, fam?
Tap out.
Well, I'm like, we licensed to carry, man. But and she's not the only one. There's been many rappers who have come through. Look at Kamaya on the West Coast, man, with E40. There's been quite a few of them. But I'm highlighting Young M.A. because obviously it typifies. I mean, look at this picture right here, man. Who?
Ice Cube.
Well, not even Cube, but just the.
No traps.
Oh yeah, no traps, no delts, no rhomboids. Pecs all small, but
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm looking at divine femininity right there.
Yeah, man, it's written on both arms, actually.
Yeah.
You guys can't read it? I mean, it's, yeah.
But back to that other failed network over there. They did not have a response to this, right? Look at Ellen DeGeneres. Her idea of masculinity revolves around, a Silicon Valley sort of WM, right? She's not walking around, trying to look like Eminem. Well, to an extent, she looks like Eminem, but I'm saying the cosplay of masculinity, the masculine construct that she sees, is not what the community, the black community sees, right? They see things they're diametrically opposed in their views. And so what I'm saying here is this is their idea of masculinity to the extent that they're willing to sacrifice a whole community for.
Yes, and that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
See, the alphabet community, from her standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
they still have hard constructs that they respect, even though they're separate from it.
Mm-hmm.
The black, well, what's like the artist formerly known as Prince, what's currently known now as the black community, is they don't have that type of respect for it, period. And it's just gonna be a sliding scale until they be like somebody in like a Barney uniform. It's like that's what masculinity is gonna be next. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I also saw that Meek Mill website reports Meek Mill walked in on Nicki Minaj and Young M.A. having extramarital affairs. So what?
With each other or with other people or
I guess he didn't ride his dirt
Like
bike
that,
fast
bro.
enough. Ooh.
Bro, I'm not. I mean, bro, you go in there, you see boxes on the ground, bro.
They both wear the same size, Meek Mill and got the same waistline. I thought I picked those up, fam. Now them joints was to the back, man. The holes to the back. You gotta figure that out.
I can't do it, bro. Yo, but that's what they like though, man. Like they walk around sagging, bro. Like they got the demeanor down of the Pookie.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. But they'll tell you that BWs don't like thugs. BWs don't like Pookie. And these El Caminos have no. You go through their contact list, man, and go through their Instagram. They have no shortage of BWs to choose from.
None.
Yeah, no shortage. Their Rolodex put my Rolodex to shame, man.
but Mike, you still gotta stay loyal though, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case they want to pick you off the bench, man. You gotta make sure you keep all your options open, dude. Don't you dare act like an individual.
Oh no. And nobody ever says, "Well, Young M.A., what are you? What are you doing in the black community? What are you building?" Ooh.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Yo, it's the weirdest thing, bro. Because if you look at if she was a dude, bro, you'd be like, oh, he just like a follower.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He'll be a like what does C Boogie use the term a doja?
A group,
Yeah, doja.
man. Like, oh.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy, and nobody wants to highlight this issue, man. That's why I had to go live, man.
Are you sure that's the same person on like the right side of the screen?
Yeah.
With the New York hat on?
Yeah.
Oh man, dude. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
The defense rest.
She doesn't have the braids in. That's all.
The defense rest. Okay. Jesus.
But let them tell the story, and that didn't happen. Ask Meek Mill. Look at Meek Mill's face.
That would be the craziest thing, bro. Like you walk in and see some underground El Camino on top of your girl, bro. You just sold all these records, bro.
And now you got Centonia Brown walking around, getting interviews. That's how the black community protects BWs, even when they identify masculinity. So because of the gender, they are protected by default. So you're not even allowed to talk about them, despite the fact that they emulate all of the worst traits of masculinity.
Hey, Mike,
Mike, it's a lot of them in the WNBA that's down with this same kind of fuckery, bro.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to get to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, are these individuals right here that kind of fit this mold? Are they male identified?
No, they are actually. Well, that's a good point. That's a good question. I think they.
I'm kind of just I'm
Actually,
going
they're
off of the
not. They're not
definition
male.
of it.
Well, I wouldn't say that they're male identified in that way, right? I think they're stealing, they're thieving the masculinity at the surface, but they don't really identify with, let's say, Obama, right? Because if that was the case, they would emulate Obama, right? They'd be more well-spoken, they'll be more educated, right? More, they'll probably be in the gym doing CrossFit or something. Then I don't see them doing it. So I don't know if I can say that they would be male identified. I think they are more. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good
I
point.
mean, I think male identified is a more apropos definition for what we're looking at than the shit that they're peddling off right now. And that was why I just figured. I mean, because like when I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, looks like a dude.
But to this point, right? Let me get a better picture.
Where's the American Psychiatric Association when you need them, man?
That's what you
What's
call
going
Dr.
on,
They're
man?
taking notes, MOT. They're taking notes.
That's what you call somebody like Dr. Phoenix.
Hey, you know what?
Hey, what's going on, Dr. Phoenix?
Psych is not my specialty, but I will say this much, a couple points. Earlier you guys were talking about Nipsey Hussle. I think I got an even better reference, something local. What about Chris Dorner? What did black folks do about him in California? Did black folks give this man a mural or have this massive celebration?
Oh, they did, man. They did. In the group I was in online, they actually had like a mural of like that dude, the dude from Dallas who shot all those people from like their sniper's perch. And like it was a mural of like Nipsey Hussle, that dude, and that dude. And I'm like, man, who would make it? And people were like liking and sharing it, man.
They're conflating
Oh,
the achievements and whatnot in the political positions of these people, man. And you know,
I guess for me, the reason I bring up the Chris Dorner thing, because again, Nipsey Hussle gets held up as sort of this bastion of masculinity, but everyone knows Chris Dorner's background. This guy was the very definition of your man's man. This guy was a former SEAL, police officer. I mean, literally had a statewide manhunt for this guy. Nipsey Hussle got killed just because of some random nigga shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
Well, if you were a serviceman, Dr. Phoenix, that means that you actually worked on the behalf of WS and the system. So you didn't run counter to it. See, this right here runs counter to the anything that could be considered the establishment.
But here's the problem with that, because ultimately black women are the ones that are going to lose out. Because again, as we've seen with the that beat down that black women caught in was that Philadelphia at that gas station?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay, yeah. So as we've seen with that, as we've seen over the last few years with all of these videos of black women getting the snot beat out of them, whether it's in Liu Kang's store or whatever the case may be, we've seen a number of videos where black women are getting the crap beat out of them. But again, and you see them in pairs. And there was a very infamous video a few years ago of a gentleman in New York. I think he worked at McDonald's. He was an ex-con or whatever. And he got into an argument with these two females. And he jumped across the counter, beat the crap out of them.
Oh, they were El Caminos. I forget his name.
Yeah, I mean, this dude, I think he was on parole or whatever, but he jumped across. They were talking mad cash shit to the dude, and he jumped across that counter.
No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. So they presented a $50 bill to him, and he put it up to the light to verify that it was real, it was authentic. And they snatched the $50 bill from him and spit in his face. So he tried to walk away. So they jumped over the countertop to further engage him. Okay. And he took the spatula that cleans the deep fryer and he went to work on him to defend himself.
And how many times have we seen videos of black women spitting on folks and getting the brakes beat off them? I mean, that's not the first time we've seen a video where they gotten spit on. But I'd say this to say, again, you look at someone like M.A. I don't know her that well. I've just only heard of her in passing. But again, I mean, she represents the absolute worst stereotypes of black men. And
Young
yet,
Pa.
yeah, and yet somehow, you know, black women think that this is going to protect you when real men come to beat your ass.
Right.
Hey, Dr.
No.
Jennings, I have a question. What's more disturbing? So, well, no, I'm not going to ask that question because I really think about it. I guess if I had to have a preference for someone who was for a chick who was trying to emulate a male, I guess I would prefer it be Obama. But then again, I'm still kind of scratching my head like, all right.
Well, look at the city of Chicago. El Camino is running the city.
I mean,
Married to a
Oh, yeah.
Married to a WW.
I can tell you exactly how that happened in Chicago. A lot of folks don't really know this, but there's a very strong, I mean, people do know this, but people really underestimate just how strong a liberal socialist element there is in Chicago. Very strong. A lot of black folks are tied into it. So, you know, make no mistake. What happened in Chicago, I am not surprised at all. I know a lot of those folks that run those groups that supported that woman that's the current mayor, but I am not the least bit surprised.
Lightfoot is her last name.
Yeah. I'm not the least bit surprised that happened in Chicago.
Especially with a name like Lightfoot. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, Chicago has always had that sort of funny style business happening like that. But you know, again, you know, ultimately, black women are the ones that are going to lose out on this. I mean, you know, as Super Triz was saying earlier, I know of a couple of females just like that who would do that, who have done that. Oh well, the brother got to be 6 feet plus, you know, 6-pack, washboard abs.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go hang out with some bad built 5'3" woman that got flabby arms and she can't do nothing but
No traps, no rhomboids,
yeah.
no delts.
So, I mean, I have personally seen this in my own life, and I've known females who have done this crap. Where you have two sets of standards. You have one set of standards that apply to quote black men, and then you have another set of standards that apply to these folks in this alphabet group. And as it pertains to Meek Mills, I mean, I ain't never really liked to do like that. Personally, I thought he was just one of these lead pipe crack babies running around on Instagram doing dumb shit all the time. But I mean, again, he takes L's, so I mean, that's what he do.
Yo, it be looking crazy when they be having kids with them too, man. I couldn't imagine growing up like, yeah, that's my parents.
It wasn't that long ago. I think it was last year that the El Camino was on Facebook Live or Instagram with the toddler making them smoke weed, and then the CPS came in and took the kids from them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But you see these sort of characters and whatnot being portrayed, and on that other network they'll keep denying that this even happened.
I mean,
They'll talk about opioid Becky, they'll talk about Pharrell and Malik Yoba, but they won't talk about that though.
I mean, it is my personal belief black women are situational lesbians.
Okay.
If you want me to be honest, as my personal belief,
Mm.
it's completely situational.
I guess you could take the L on that.
Literally and figuratively.
You know, I think that, you know, I think a lot of what happens here, at least I didn't see this particular stream you all are talking about.
Oh, they took it down. Yeah.
But you know, I do remember the one from the week prior, well, I
Mhm.
guess earlier in that week, where you had similar types of stuff going on. So I mean, it is not, you know, at least in my opinion, it is not that stretch of an imagination to believe that these folks will embrace that form of degeneracy and dysfunction. That we think is okay, that you have I don't even know what this is on your screen here, but you have someone like this.
Jim Jones Jr. Baldwin.
Well, I guess she might have a little bit more money because I heard the brother just lost his $1 million home, got sold for like $100.
Jametta Jones.
But you know, I'll just, you know, I think it's just one of these deals where you know, black women don't understand that at the end of the day, you know, you're not going to get protection from some woman who At least I'm not sure as complex as she's male identified or whatever the case may be with her. You know, you're not going
Situation
to get that kind of
identified.
protection. You know, someone like that cannot protect you if you got Hussein and Osama at the damn gas station being your ass.
Oh yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And
Well,
given
what
that video
happens
that I
is,
saw and just how quickly they've been down on them, I mean, damn. I mean, that was instant.
Go ahead, complex, and then we got to go to Cyber9. He has his hand
yeah,
raised.
absolutely. I was just gonna say, and then what happens is that they step into this I guess they kind of step into this role, and then when it becomes either a test of reality or a political convenience, the next thing I'm a woman.
Mhm.
You can't treat women that way. You can't, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa, are we really kind of seeing this here the way we need to be seeing this?
But
You step into the male, you step into a man's role, then you deal with men things.
see, why are so many BM rappers doing collabs with her? It doesn't make any sense to me. You're the hardest cat on the block, and this, and that, and then you do a collab with this, a cosplay. It doesn't make any sense, man. Go ahead, Cyber9.
I think it's where the women are at.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Give me for
Hey,
the
what's
water
going on?
background, prepping this good old steak tonight. But it's interesting. I want to hit on something that Dr. Phoenix said. Actually, I want to expand upon that very precept. And not a lot of these pictures, they're not really being for real with themselves or for real with the concept at all. Dr. Phoenix, I think, what did you say? You said it was they were lesbian. What they were being
Situational lesbians.
yeah, situational. I want to expand upon that and say more so they're being convenient. Think about it. Did you look at this picture? Did you see any goatee? Do you see a beard? You see
No,
any
they're doing
sideburns?
that now, dude. They're doing that now. Go to barbershops, man. They got these spray-on goatees and stuff that they're putting on them.
Yeah,
Let
I've
me see
seen
if I can.
that horrible stuff on Instagram, dude.
No.
So let me ask
Yes,
you a question.
Instagram is horrible, dude.
yes,
Let me
dude.
ask a question.
Oh,
They walking around now looking like Rick Ross, man.
oh.
Yeah.
Man, that's
I saw it on Instagram, man. It's like some spray painting type stuff, dude.
So let me ask a question.
El Camino with a body kit.
If you guys were barbershop artists, because they got the spray on fade now for the guys down in Atlanta. They've been had that or the sew in box and fade. But if you guys were barbershop owners, a young man walks into your barbershop, keeping 100 with us, and they want the spray on, strap on, sew on, goatee, beard, and mustache, would you serve them?
I can't be the spot, bro.
Cyber 7's
Hey,
gonna
when you
ask
come,
leave it to me to ask those penetrating questions.
A
nah,
Yankee beard?
Serve them.
I'm gonna keep it G with you, man. Hey, one time I went to a barbershop and they had an El Camino that cut hair, bro, and it was the only one with an empty chair, bro. I just turned around.
Ooh. Ooh.
I couldn't let it cut my hair, dog. Real talk, bro.
Now they got shags and stuff too. Like back in the day, man, they got shags, man.
Yo, the El Camino had the Clippers tattoo with the cord wrapped around the arm, like real serious, bro. I was like, hell no.
Yeah. I mean, I was just about to make a statement, man. If you think about the icy hot stunner in South Carolina, you see, he was doing the same exact thing. He was emulating the worst forms of black masculinity.
Caricature.
I was gonna draw the picture, but I didn't go there. See, because I think that him knowing that he was white, he played on what they actually want. So them acting like, you know what I'm saying, Pookie, she playing on what they actually want. It's a parallel there.
Yeah, I think they're part and parcel of the same dysfunction. I think they're totally related.
Now you're starting to see them come to churches and stuff like that, man. I don't want to get too much into that, but
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope right there, bro.
Yeah, man.
Let's stay away from
we
that
good,
cliff.
man.
yeah, but
No, it's a fact.
yeah, man. Tommy was right on the money, man, and they couldn't deny it over there. And more of his Spectre gunship letting off as usual. Him and Kevin Samuels, when he said that Kevin Samuels should be the ideal BM, they were upset about that. I mean, like,
Why?
How many names do they call that, bro? I've heard that brother on a couple of panels over the last few months, and they called this brother some real nasty stuff.
yeah.
I mean, they said all kinds of stuff. Can't repeat it here, but
Yeah, I don't like to repeat it because I fully support Kev, man. I've been rocking with Kev for a couple years, man. He's never disrespected anybody, to my knowledge, man. Always been humble when he comes through. I think he even subscribed to us. So what I'm just saying here is that they are staunch in doubling down on what they think masculinity is, and when you point it out to them where the failure is in their perceptions, they get very indignant about it. And it's like, wait a second, you're trying to describe and articulate what you have no clue about what you're talking about. It's a lot of the pseudoscience. And I heard the other week, from that other network, man, they try to give a scientific perspective as to why BWs choose BMs of this characteristic. But every time I see the first 48, I see these same BMs with their head on the table. Yo, I ain't do it, fam. It wasn't me. I was never there. Call my mother, call my aunt, call my grandmother, call my lawyer. They're always trying to wiggle their way out of something. And it's like, yo,
It's never like call my job.
Yeah, it's
my
never.
Personal favorite. My personal favorite is when they ask for a cigarette. I think that's the most hilarious thing ever.
Yeah.
But see that's the situational aspect that Dr. Phoenix was referring to, because a lot of the stuff that we see is based on latitude afforded by productive men like us. We create an environment where now they feel like everything has been built, so now they can actually do whatever it is that they feel like they want to do. Like in a situation where you have to adhere to a certain code of conduct because certain things won't be afforded to you, then you will see a change in their behavior. But because you live in an environment where they're not necessarily held accountable to that specific standard, and that now, there's certain latitudes that are afforded by other men, like MOT. I don't know what the acronym you said. Whatever a woman thinks. What's the acronym that you use, MOT, for that?
WABT.
Yeah. You got a lot of guys like that when a man tries to come in, like for instance, like us, like we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. But if we're having this conversation out in the open forum with people outside of the Black Brain Trust, I guarantee you there will be men coming in and saying, well, we can't talk like that because, we have to be considerate about women. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And it always undermines whatever momentum that you try to get established, because there's always a guy, there's always several men like that. Mm-hmm. And because they have to put us back into perspective, because again, the only reason why is because we actually care what they think. Mm-hmm. Well, not necessarily us, but just men. There's certain men in general that actually care what they think. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing what actually makes sense and has an actual trajectory. Because the stuff that we see, like, I think other groups realized this a long time ago, that certain things have no trajectory. That's the reason why they don't allow that in their societies. Like, you go to certain societies, Young and May wouldn't be allowed to exist because they understand the trajectory of something like that in their environment.
Look at Saudi Arabia. They got those two BWs locked up for doing the same exact thing. And
I support them wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
I support Saudi Arabia wholeheartedly in that decision.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Super Triz. I think this is one of This is one of these deals where if you do look at other societies, they will never let nothing like this happen. I've talked about before. I spent quite a bit of time over in Morocco. Was with a Moroccan woman for over 5 years, so I know for a fact you can't even come with none of that silly business. All of this young MA or whatever, that stuff is not tolerated. Women will find themselves not just locked up. In many cases, these women will find themselves dead because they do not play that stuff over in some of these more conservative, culturally conservative societies. They just don't.
Yeah, and let them tell you, and they'll tell you that they're being oppressed by BMs. BMs are oppressing them. The Black Brain Trust and all their intellectual capacity is stymieing the growth of BWs, and therefore, you guys are bad news, and if we have to we need all types of measures in legislature through the Democratic Party to deal with men like you.
But notice this, right? Of all of the ills, the negative aspects of the Black Brain Trust and collectives of men like the Black Brain Trust, notice that these other groups never say that they want to separate from people like us. Why? Because they can't. Because they know that they can't exist without the productivity of groups like us. Notice that. Because if we were so bad, then they said, you know what? We don't want you. We don't need you. We're going to start our own community over here. You never hear them say that. They always talk about community because they want to be subsidized. Their lack of work ethic, their lack of productivity, they want that subsidized by productive men like you and me.
Well, wait, hey, Super Triz, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. I just had a thought. Isn't there a community that is founded on this right here? Isn't there a community that already exists?
Not, it is to an extent, but not 100%.
Okay, well, I mean, all communities were burgeoning ones at some point, right?
Well, they have BLM for that, right? Because if you look at BLM, you see BLM. That's their sort of motto, right? That's their alma mater to really put that out there. That we are the El Caminos, and we'll drop the top on you at any time, right?
well, okay. So then I would think that right that you would pivot to look at those sorts of organizations and I guess intellectual collectives or co-ops, much like how we're fashioned to do the work. Considering, I think it's pretty disingenuous. I don't look at this right here, right, and call to action what this is supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm looking at this here and I'm saying, okay, this is a very bad imitation of me. This is an extremely bad imitation of me.
It's an insult. It's an insult.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's insulting, right? But just looking at it, like, what the fuck? What expectations am I supposed to have of this right here? What purpose does this serve?
Right.
But I think Super Triz hit it right on the money. I think this is about being able to piggyback off of the productivity of brothers like here at the Black Brain Trust and brothers like it, and brothers and groups like it, and brothers like us. I mean, I think he's around the money with that because again, these people cannot survive. When they was having what's his name funeral earlier this year, what was Nipsey Hussle. There was also an article that came out in the LA Times that was talking about that they held his funeral at the Staples Center, but that same area, which is Inglewood, California, was being gentrified. But people were paying $500, $600 for some damn tickets to his funeral.
Tickets to a funeral, man?
Yeah, those tickets was going for like $500.
Dude, they were being scalped, bro.
Yeah, they were going for a lot.
They were going for Bitcoin prices.
Yeah, but
I'm pretty sure some were sold for Bitcoin.
I would not doubt it, not the least bit. And even when you saw like the whole funeral procession, I never knew as few black people as there are in California, and as broke as black people say they are in California. I never knew you had those many people rolling up in Rolls Royce Phantoms and Bentley. What's the Bentley SUV? Whole bunch of them.
Oh, you can rent those, bro. You can rent
Yeah,
those by the
well,
hour.
that is true. That is true. But my point is that you know you have this funeral going on. You see tickets going for $500-$600, but yet the articles coming out of the New York Times, the LA Times, talking about you have that whole area being gentrified to all hell. But yet there were certain channels at that time that were talking about that article, but yet you see all these black people showing out for Nipsey Hussle funeral.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I want to bring this up too. Going back to that other network, that failed network, Beirut in the 80s. They had an 8-hour live stream going in on Edward Anderson about his statement on the Rumble.
Really?
Wow. What was his statement?
He said something to Taz, and I'm not going to repeat here. He said something to Taz as he was kind of and Super Triz did an actual video response to it on his channel. Okay. Make sure y'all go to Super Triz channel and check that out.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, they had an 8-hour live stream going in on Edward Anderson, and Edward Anderson was just trying to make a point that this is who y'all represent in reality, but they can talk about that for 8 hours, but Tommy comes in 30 seconds and ethers the whole entire panel. Completely ethers them. Nothing to say, silent. And what I was referring to earlier was an identity quake. This is what happens, and this happens quite often in social media when you engage these sort of people in their beliefs.
Well, what happened when one of the members of that network actually stopped through here? Remember that, Mike? There was a lot. There was a big what to do made about it, right? A lot of well, I mean, he's gonna come into the brain trust, and nigga came here, was here but a whole solid 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and you never seen him since. I mean, I'm just saying, like, let the facts show, right? Like, let shit like speak for itself.
Ty Shady, I got a question.
Yeah.
You got a male variant for the El Camino? You got that figured out yet?
It's the Prius.
The what? What you say, bro?
You got a male variant for the El Camino figured out?
Oh, the male? Nah,
it's called a Subaru Baja.
Nah, well, you know, they got the Ranchero. Ford had the Ranchero.
I call it a Prius.
It's not good at being a truck or a car.
Yeah.
But a Prius is still a hybrid.
So here we are having this discussion. I dropped the link several times in the chat. You would think that these cats will pull up because I know they're watching, man. You have any opportunity? Yeah, it's clear that you guys are watching.
113 people. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They know better, man. Shout out to Tommy Sotomayor. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, man, for using white phosphorus over there.
The old shake and bake missions.
Oh yeah, straight white phosphorus over there. But the point here, man, is we have to keep responding to these statements that they make. Put them in the corner. Don't let them get out, man. They're intellectual midgets, man. They're like the cat and the Joker who couldn't reach the door lock to get out, and Joker had to let him out. Yeah, if any of you all saw the Joker yet,
you know what?
Ty City, you must have saw it recently.
No.
Oh man, you got to go see that, dog. You got to go see that. That joint is fire. But
yeah, that basically in the Joker, there's a part in the movie where the Joker basically relieve somebody of their existence.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, the guy, that was in the room, and he feared that his demise was in short order, but he wasn't a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his diminutive stature, he wasn't perceived as a threat. So Joker showed him mercy, not only because of that, also because of the guy's disposition towards him through the entirety of their acquaintance, that he was always, at least cordial to him. So he didn't really have any malice to him, but also, he wasn't a threat. So he was like, you're free to go. And the guy was so powerless, even when he was given a clear path for escape, he couldn't even let himself out. He had to go back to the guy who already showed him mercy and say, "Hey, could you let me out too?" I mean, he didn't. I don't think he actually said it, but he looked at the guy, and the Joker had to let him out. Had to let him out the apartment because he couldn't reach the door locks.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah,
my
so
granddaddy say you can't fight your way out of wet paper bag.
Andre Edwards in the chat says, "Don't tell the movie, man. That's just been out for a whole month. Where you been at, man?"
We already did like a deep dive on that movie, dude. It's a little late in the game for that one.
Yeah, man. You done had two legendary politicians pass away since then, man. Where you been at?
I guess you're new here. Welcome.
Yeah, but yeah, man.
Well, just real quick, Edward Anderson, holler at me in the background if you need a link so you can keep up to date with these movies. Just holler at me. Allegedly.
That's not Edward Anderson. It's Andre Edwards. Andre Edwards, not Edward Anderson.
No, his name's Andre Edwards.
Yeah.
Dog. But that's what I'm saying. When you get to the bottom of it and they start talking about masculinity and you start talking about productivity and you start linking actual tangible things to masculinity, and they just come up short. And that's when people get in their feelings.
Oh yeah. See, they want to control the narrative of what black masculinity should be because they don't have that same perspective when it comes to WMs. When they want to date icy hot stunners, then all of a sudden, and bottom shelf brads, then it's okay for them, to be bottom shelf brads, right? They don't really hold that sort of position against them. King Sigma did an excellent live stream a few weeks ago exposing all of these, BWs on Twitter, saying one thing, but then doing something different in other messages, man. And these aren't bots. These are real people. These are real people.
I can't tell you how many black females I knew in my undergrad days that did exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
They got a problem if they saw brothers walking around with non-black women on campus, but they were all low key hanging around Brad, and if they can hang on to Chan, they would, and if they can holler at Ahmed, they would too.
Mm-hmm.
But they all did. There was a significant number of them that did it.
I mean, well, Dr. Phoenix, I would say that, in addition to that, when we also add situational L-wordism into the mix, like, how the fuck do you even have a position or a leg to stand on about what black men, forward-thinking black men choose to do at that point? Like, I mean, I don't know if
complex. They always will have something to say.
I mean, I get it, but like, okay, when we've basically gone right here, like what we're looking at right here. Okay, in my view, we've officially hit rock bottom, right? And so at rock bottom, like you're casting stones upward at that point. I really think it's time to take a look at your surroundings and say, damn, actually, I fell down into this canyon. I'm down. I need to kind of get up. I need to kind of move up into more of a social space here where I'm looking at things with more of a, you know what I mean, with a clearer mind. I mean, god damn, dude, like if I'm saying, like if BWs are really gonna throw this right here in my face and look at me and say, this is what masculinity is, complex.
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn.
Yeah.
I mean,
ooh, look at this.
Man, what's going on in that photo, man?
Yeah, I know that photo looks kind of weird, dude.
That's what they do over there, man. I mean, that's why I don't really. I didn't, I'll never make a live stream about, Pharrell and the cover of GQ. I don't care about that because you guys open up the Pandora's box to that by bringing this in there and then trying to use that to represent masculinity. Meanwhile, you go to a Nisby event and you see brothers clean cut, suit and tie and everything else, don't look nothing like that. And sisters will walk right past those type of brothers like they're invisible, like they're ghosts.
Well, Mike, it's interesting you say that, man, because on the one side, right, I'm looking at masculinity right here, laughably, but I'm looking at it, okay? And then on the flip side, you bring up the whole Pharrell piece, right? I'm also told that that's real masculinity. That's true masculinity. It's
but he's not in control of that, right? Somebody else made that message, right? That's somebody else.
But what I'm saying is that this is also echoed, in Black society, particularly here, right? We're told that all of this is masculinity, like every kind of perversion that you can come up with is a reflection of true masculinity. But being productive somehow, that's not you're not hitting on shit if you're productive. It is utterly it is a mind fuck, dude. It is literally a mind fuck.
This is supposed to be young MA here. Supposed to be before the transition. I guess they put a hard top on the El Camino back then, but
that was her. that was her.
Huh?
That was her in the past.
Yeah, that was her in high school. That's senior year.
Man, there's a whole lot of skin bleaching and some other stuff going on.
Oh man, for real.
Oh yeah. God. Oh, so you have colorism issues and these people over there would never talk about that though. They'll never talk about it.
You know what? No, I have this theory that all light-skinned El Caminos always end up looking like Mac 10 once they get braids, man.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Who banging? Dude. Who banging, man? Who banging?
Shout out to Mac 1-0, by the way, man.
Every time, man. As soon as I see the braid, like, here we go. Another Mac 10 on the scene, man.
Yeah, backyard, a boogie, woogie, woogie.
You want to hear something funny, man? Last week I was at a dinner last week, and it was a dinner for a drug company sponsored this dinner at a very high-end restaurant here in my city. But there, so basically it was myself, some other medical students, bunch of physicians, whatever, and we're going through this seminar. It's on a relatively new drug on the market that is about a 99% cure for Hep C. But the point I'm bringing this up is that there were a few Black men there, other than myself, that were med students, and we're all sitting there. And you had some Black females there, but we're all just sitting there. We were talking, and one of the brothers, he was from Chicago as well, and he was talking about, him and I were just chopping it up, just talking about, just some of the stuff that, that we just kind of went through growing up in Chicago. And it was exactly that. He was talking about, going to SNMA meetings, which is the Student National Medical Association. And he was talking about how you go to these events and you'll be there around Black females. I've talked about this before, and you will get completely overlooked, or they wouldn't pay attention to you until there was some non-Black women in your face. That's always that is I've had that happen to me a couple of times. Not that I was looking for the attention per se, but in those instances, I've been at events where Black females wouldn't even say hello to me, but the moment there was some other group of women in my face, oh, how you doing? Happens every time. So to your statement a few moments ago about the NASB, that is something that happens to brothers in those spaces all the time.
Yeah, I talked about that several times. I've been talking about that for years on YouTube in the manosphere, because a lot of people will project this idea that these upwardly mobile brothers are cowards, and then they just chase WWs and whatnot, and they're just sellouts. And I'm like, these are the guys that are doing the most work. They don't get any credit at all. But you get somebody like, you know, Young M.A. or the characteristic of Nipsey Hussle, and all of a sudden he's getting praise for the minor that he's doing. Meanwhile, the brothers that, you know, in these different organizations are running laps around him and they don't get any acknowledgement at all.
And Mike, what do you recall when you and I were like on one of, I think it was maybe like literally like BGS's like second hangout for women's, I guess he had just created that channel. Remember when me and you were on there?
Yep.
And what did you catch hell for?
Oh, it was a variety of things.
But wasn't that one of the things, like what you just mentioned? Wasn't that,
yeah. It's in that ballpark. But you know, I don't think we caught hell, but I think it is the pushback because the idea of masculinity for them is different than how we interpret it, right? Because they see it from a cosplay perspective, we see it from a meritocracy perspective, which is why we don't want, or we don't acknowledge the underperforming black male, which is the Pookie. That's largely what a Pookie is. He's an underperformer, right? He's an underachiever. He doesn't really do much, doesn't really contribute. He kind of just rides the coattail of the upwardly mobile and tries to latch on. And at the same time, they're willing to reproduce with him, but turn their nose up to you. And it's really weird because then they hold you to a standard that they won't hold him to. So Young M.A. is protected under this umbrella that says her gender becomes before her cosplay, whereas you don't get any umbrella. You just gotta, you know, weather the storm.
Am I supposed to see this here as like my brother, like a brother in arms, or how do I interact with this right here? From a you know what I mean? Like, am I supposed to like see this in the streets and be like, yeah, what up, bro, and give it dap?
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not.
Am I supposed to look at this right here? Am I supposed to look at this right here and expect it to understand what it means to be a black man?
Listen, I'm telling you, you need to interact with that as a woman, because if anything happens and you end up in an altercation or something, that's you got into it with a woman. At the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. They never going to see that as masculine until it's convenient.
Well, that's what happened in that McDonald's incident I was talking about. That Mike and I were talking about earlier. That's exactly what happened. When you saw this dude beat the snot out of him, all of a sudden it became, oh, we're women. You know, and again, you know, this is typically what happens in these events. You in these situations, you cannot have someone who at least at face value represents the worst stereotypes of black men, and then when black men treat you as such, the automatic response is, well, we're still women. You can't have it both ways, and that's a
female.
And that's where black females are going to lose out on here. You can't have it both ways. You're gonna have to make a pick.
We got Mr. Fantastic on the panel, man. What it do, man?
Yo, man, what up, man? I appreciate the invite, man. Y'all mean to tell me I missed that good old classic Laquan McDonald footage?
Oh shit!
And him getting that goddamn grease. Grease rack.
yeah. Because you know, I don't know how much you've listened to the to this live stream so far. Where did you come in at?
I've been listening for about 20 minutes, man. I've been listening for like at least 20 or 30 minutes or so. Okay. I came straight. As soon as I got off the O'Shea shit, I came over here on y'all.
Yeah, man. You know that old network over there, man. Tommy came through with that Spectre gun shit, man, and started letting off, man, and silenced the panel, man. You know, people running for cover in the foxholes, man, trying to avoid the collateral damage. But
fallout. Yeah. I watched Kevin Samuels I guess semi or whatever last night, man. And it was just like I started to share it. I didn't get around to it, but I picked it up to the point where he actually talked about the subject itself. And like I said, man, again, bro, I just appreciate the fact that, like you said, we're cleaning this shit up, man. Like enough is enough. You know, we can't, you know, you got to put the motherfucking rabbit dog down, man, or it's going, you know, terrorize all the whole fucking neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he came through. He said, you know, BW's like thugs, and someone
Well,
said,
you
no,
know,
that's not true. And then I'm just giving Fantastic the backstory. And then Tommy pointed out that the El Caminos emulate the worst traits and caricatures of
Black masculinity. Yeah.
of black masculinity. So how do you explain that? The panel was silent. He ethered it, man.
Oh, Tommy went over there again.
This was Sunday, I think. I think that was Sunday that happened.
Yeah, he went over there again.
Yeah, man. He got him a good whooping group right now, man.
Man, that Spectre gunship, those Hellfire missiles, man. It just doesn't stop, man. They don't have a deterrence for that, man.
Nice tight shot grouping.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they out there running around the desert with Toyota pickups and shit like that, man. That shit is not. That shit ain't got no level 1 ballistic protection, mine resistant, and ambush protected, non-existent, man.
Man, they just tacked a bunch of scrap metal to that shit.
Oh man, they put aluminum foil on the underpill.
Yeah, looking like a bunch of Mad Max vehicles, dude.
Yeah, riding through the desert.
Well, you can fit a dime over that shot group, so I mean, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, here's the thing. Like, you know, I heard part of your stream yesterday, Mr. Fantastic, and you guys were talking about a black woman that got hit in the face with a blender at a McDonald's, I guess.
Yeah, with that Hadouken.
That was no smoothie. That was no smoothie that came out of that either.
I didn't even know about it until I heard it on your stream yesterday, and I just went to go check the video. I was like, damn, she caught a fade.
Yeah. That was a straight Hadouken.
But I said that to say, I mean, what is the response to something like that?
Well, they call Young M.A. I mean, that's pull up in them El Caminos. Pull up.
Hey, old girl looked like she had a plum on her face.
Well, we don't support violence against BWs, but what we are saying,
Mike, especially when the violence is perpetuated by another black woman.
Oh yeah.
Yo, you leave your kids.
We really don't support that.
You got everything coming to you. Whenever you neglect your children, you got whatever you got coming.
So where is the warrior class to defend them?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what this warrior class has been. I don't know for how long, man.
We're looking at it
outside of friendly fire and shooting at their own comrades. I don't see what this whole working class has done for the quote unquote black community. I'm still.
Well, not only that, Fantastic, but they also like just kind of like play around with the grenades, and they forget they pulled the fucking pin.
Yeah, but their bullets are only for successful people with futures. That's how come they can't hit nobody else. So.
But I even in part of your stream I heard yesterday, Mr. Fantastic, I guess you guys were talking about sound like there was initial conversation between one of the females on the panel, and then she brought another person into the mix when she couldn't properly defend herself against Mr. Sotomayor. Is that?
Yeah, man, she maggled up. Yeah. She maggled up.
Yeah. Called in for reinforcements.
Okay. So he's
wait, they phoned a friend?
So
man. Yeah. I guess that's supposed to be the SEAL team 69 or something.
So he has howitzers shelling the place, and you call in. Okay. Just wanted to know.
The warrior class, bro. They
Bebop and Rocksteady, man. Bebop and Rocksteady.
Dude, that had to be one of the funniest videos I've seen in a long time, man. It took me back to my childhood.
The warrior class, though, man. And now you got women pretending to be part of the fake warrior class. It's a lie, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was watching the First 48 one day, man, and they had one of these Caminos on there, man. She popped the brother, man, in the car. and and thought they were going to get away with it, and was surprised that she got arrested.
Hey Mike, while you playing, it's a lot of El Caminos getting their street cred up out here. They moving their weight around out here in the streets for real.
Oh yeah,
I know it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but hey.
I mean,
what's the name was an archetype for that? Snoop from The Wire was an archetype for that, bro. That was a big. I think that helped spawn, or that helped add to it the whole I guess the whole allure of it. That character from The Wire.
Yeah, I mean,
it's ironic because here's the thing: if this person is going to be the standard of black masculinity, the other part of what they don't talk about, women who are in these kinds of relationships with women like that, these relationships tend to have the highest rates of domestic violence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they don't even talk about that. I mean, I've known a number of black females who were in relationships with folks like this, and there's all kinds of issues. I mean, they're getting the brakes beat off of them.
Wasn't one of them killed? Wasn't one of them killed their spouse or something like that the other day?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I haven't caught that.
Yeah. That's breaking news, man.
Wow.
One of the El Caminos, dropped the top or something, man.
Yeah, but look, that's what I'm saying about the WNBA. Them girls, they be beating up their girlfriends, and nobody gets suspended, fined, nothing, and they be having long ass police report.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the chick from soccer team. The soccer team chick did the same thing. She beat up her sister and her nephew.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where we are right now, man. We have to make a concerted effort to keep pushing back, man. Fantastic be going in with SKC, man. SKC be rolling over there, man. You get more. I get more enjoyment just hearing SKC roll on the floor, man. Just
SKC
cracking the hell up, man.
Man.
He going in, man.
He's probably the most hated dude out here.
Imagine that, right? Imagine that. He's the most hated dude, but this El Boogie on the screen, man. They
Man, but he be laughing at like the perfect time where you ain't supposed to be laughing, but come on, SKC. There you go. Laugh at it, bro.
He gets under their skin. I've seen him. He gets under their skin. Oh my God! And don't let him bring up who he's married to. Oh my God!
They disrespect him. His spouse, his kids. It's ridiculous how far they're willing to go. But if you say anything about them, they want to come to your house. They want to block you. They want to mute you, get you off the panel. They do anything they possibly can. There's so much fragility with the Pookie, with the supporters of the underperformers, man. It's crazy. I don't see how pro-black can you be if you're that fragile.
I mean, well, one of these folks that's a part of that group. I mean, I've heard them over. At least I heard a playback over at Mr. Fantastic's channel. Mr. Fantastic had to kick this individual off, but he called the man's kids some mutts.
Yeah,
and repeatedly called his man kids mutts.
For what reason?
Just because.
Well, that's the thing. By their logic, they're the savior, father, protector of all black people.
Mm-hmm.
But and if you say anything about the people that aren't even blood related to them, they've never even met in their life, that gives them the right to directly disrespect you and your immediate family, spouse and children, as a black man.
Yeah, that makes sense. So.
But yeah, man, like I said, the whole thing, like Kevin said, we definitely need it coming from an older gentleman, an older fella, established in all these things, for him to, articulate it as cool and calm as possible for motherfuckers that feel like, people like me are a little outrageous or too passionate. But, it's like I said, it's just refreshing to know that, like, we're not crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, when I saw the thing, they played me the playback of the thing with Kev, Sunday, I think it was. And like Kevin, like he shook the spot immediately. He's just like, what? Like, where is this even coming from? Like, bro, what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if you don't agree with them, you're a pedo.
Yeah, man. Like what the what? Like,
Well, from what I understand, that discussion Sunday, at least from what I heard, I guess part of the discussion also included talk about obesity and stuff like that.
yeah.
And apparently, a lot of folks have problems with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not allowed to talk about them.
I mean, this screen share you have right now with this side by side of Nipsey Hussle and Young M.A. I mean, this tells you everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Test your might.
Ooh.
Yo,
what's good, panel?
Yo, what's good, man?
hey,
Yo, I kind of agree with Phoenix, Dr. Phoenix. What's up, man? I agree with you on a lot of black women, BWs being situational, man. I deal with that in my family. My wife's mom, she was married to two men, and then like she was like kind of like not a good person. So only thing she had left was another woman.
El Camino.
and she got the one with the fade, looking like one of those Puerto Rican boxers, you know.
oh no!
Camacho.
Yeah,
that's wild, man.
She was running around with her. Yeah, man, she was running around her and all that stuff, man. I mean,
you gotta act like you respect her too.
Yeah, giving daps.
That's what I
be getting
mean. Do you give him daps?
Yo, it's crazy.
You be getting haircuts at the same barbershop and whatnot.
Oh no, man. Hey.
No,
Yeah, I kind of agree.
this is a serious problem because again, you know, as I've talked about previously, you know, this becomes these issues where black men, specifically the productive ones, get scapegoated for. We get blamed for every damn thing, whether it's the STI issue or the domestic violence. No, these are all situations that a segment, well, the majority of black society has put themselves into. But somehow the conversation always comes back to what? Oh, well, this group of black men over here, we know you guys sacrificed, you went to school, you did all these other things, built some businesses, whatever. Well, you guys are goofy. You're suckers. You know, you did it for us. Now come bring your asses back over here and help us up out of this dysfunction. No.
A lot of guys get shamed into that though. They don't know any better because they haven't been a part of the Black Brain Trust. If you haven't been a subscriber, man, you know, you be
telling you, man.
I would say. Go ahead, my bad.
I'm telling you, the Black Brain Trust should be like dropping leaflets from the sky in the South, man, because them dudes need it the most.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're surrounded, and you know, you got 200-pounders. You know what I'm saying? Punking dudes, and then you know when they don't want dudes anymore, they turn around and switch up to the El Camino. So it's like, you know, them dudes are like waiting on like extended hold times, man.
It's a necessary evil that we do this. You know, I know a lot of people are looking like, man, y'all are better than that, man. Y'all shouldn't be talking about this. No, we have to talk about it, man. We have to.
You cannot avoid these conversations. I mean, this is part of the reason why every single black man on this panel and in this chat, every single day you go out here in this world, this is what you're fighting against, the kind of crap that these cats put out. I mean, these are the narratives you have to fight against every day. You walk into a space, people looking at you sideways. Because you have to fight.
And for the record, these people do all this stuff by choice, man.
Oh yeah, they do.
And to MOT's point, man, I think I talked about this over the summer. I was in Louisiana for about a couple weeks, and I saw some real crazy stuff down there. I mean, that was the first time I haven't been there in quite a number of years, but I mean, I was down there, man. I don't know.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the El Caminos be on some like Jet Li the One type stuff when they see like real masculine black men, and we just like doing it naturally. They'll like hate us on the comm, like, because especially if they have a girl with them that's like real feminine, which I always felt weird that real feminine BWs, they really like guys, but they just are playing around. So like,
No, It's like
Yeah, but here's the thing.
it's like drinking one of those wine coolers, man. You want to look like you're actually drinking, but you know you ain't really doing much.
Seltzer.
That shit out the box.
Yeah, but here's the other thing about it. The same person who's acting feminine in that relationship 5 minutes ago was super masculine with a dude. But would turn right around.
That is so true. Yo, they're the
feminine.
most violent too. They're the most
Yes.
violent ones. The pretty ones that are in
Oh,
those
yeah.
El Camino relationships, they're the most violent
Yeah,
ones.
man.
They'll steal off them girls fast.
And
Like I seen black eyes.
And that's exactly what the statistics show, that the highest rates of domestic violence tends to be among those types of relationships, those same sex in particular.
Hey man, you know, when I was in law enforcement, man, we almost have to have a little like mini district at they like club, man, because every time you leave, man, you're coming back. You're coming back against somebody else. So you might as well just stand there with like a big wagon, man, because they always be swinging on each other, man. And it's not like, you know, let's step outside, like boom, like right there, like you cuffing people up and other people are just getting to fighting like right in front of you. Like, man, at least wait till I turn the corner.
My thing is, what these hoes fighting over there? Y'all like the same shit.
Territory?
Yeah, territory, man.
You know, I remember, you know, back when I was in the service, man. I mean, you used to see this a lot. You go to some of these clubs on poles, you know, some of the old NCO clubs, whatever. Man, this stuff used to go down all the time. You know, you'd be up in the club, dudes would be in these spots, you know, talking to a female. You know, next thing you know, you got some stud ass cat coming out. Like, yeah, they trying to squad up with you. And yeah, I mean,
because they can't beat you, they'll go to other measures, man. They'll flatten your tires or key up your car or something like that, man. Bust your windows or something like that, man.
Seen a few of them catch some fades back in the day, so I'll say that much.
Yo, I'm gonna let y'all into something crazy that happened to me. I was down in Orlando, family reunion, Disney World, and it was me, my wife, my sister, who's she's an El Camino. My cousin from Wisconsin, he is though he's not an El Camino, but the guy version or whatever. And my wife,
Ranchero.
Yeah, right.
Dude, you surrounded.
So, I'm surrounded, right? So it's me and my other little cousin who you know, regular boy. So they end up getting these tickets at like you know that entertainment place down in Orlando, with the water in the middle. Well, basically it's like where the Hard Rock Cafe is. They get some tickets for some show, and it's called Twerk the Soleil. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, I'm not going to that. So I know nothing of it. So then my wife was like, we need you to come down here to come with us, because it was later on that night that we went back. So we ended up going back. It was like the craziest minstrel show of basically like black guys and everybody being like it's hard for me to explain it. Like they were like twerking to like Disney songs, and it was dudes doing it with like girls and like fake ratchetness. And what surprised me was the crowd. It was like older WMs there. It was older W supporting that type of stuff, and I was like, God, this is. I was at awe, and I was really mad at my wife because she brought me to something like that. Like, she disrespected me. Like, I'm like, are you testing me to make sure I'm not that way or something? And then I spent like a half an hour like talking to them about how much of a minstrel show it was, and it was like, Dad, like, come on, you being a Buzz Killington, what's wrong with you? Like everybody's having a good time, and it was dudes on stage twerking and whatnot. I'm like, yo, what y'all expect me to act like? And it was just like I feel like it's outdated.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but that's that. You know, we have to actually keep pushing back against this, man. You know, we can't let them articulate what masculinity is for us. There's too many coward men on YouTube and the Black Manosphere who want to sit there and kowtow to that narrative. Like, yeah, y'all ain't real, and I'm like, what are you, man? Like, you sitting there. Underneath the guys, underneath the leadership of this gynocracy, I'm like, I can't take you seriously. If 90% of your subscribers BWs, I don't take you seriously, bro. Like you know, to each his own, man. I just think, you know, we have 99% of our subscriber base male, 44% Gen X, 33% millennials, and I think we have like 14% of our subscribership of Zennials. So, you know, I wonder who's really who's the real masculine men in you know, in the manosphere, man. Like, who are these guys?
You know, I can't even imagine black males twerking to Disney songs, man. I think of like Little Mermaid or some crap like that.
Mhm.
Yo, and the funny thing, Disney was backing it because what I noticed was that he had his name, the guy had his name written with the Disney D. And I was thinking to myself, like, they wouldn't let that go down. And then it showed him like it was like videos of him on like the big screen with like he had like this boy band when they're dressed up as like Disney princes. And I was like, yo, Disney is with this stuff. Like he was like big, like he was like not big at the time, but he's bigger now. And I was like, oh, like this, like he basically Disney is cool with that type of behavior.
Yo, you better than me, dog.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't frequent those type of areas. I don't know anything about that. What I do know is, you know, when I go out, man, and I link up with intellectual brothers, man, we don't see any of that type of stuff, man. We're too busy
Yeah,
on some real progressive stuff, man. So
yeah. But well, I'd say this: you guys get into some deep relationships, women will try you. Women will try you for some reason. It's weird because they don't want you to be like that, but they want to see where your head is at. It's like a super SHIT test.
no,
Like
it's buck breaking. They're trying to
Yeah,
buck
yeah.
break
that's
black men.
exactly what it is.
They're trying to buck break you, and they think that it's cool to actually do something like that. And then they're upset when WWs and AWs show up and LW show up, and you looking over there, but you're not looking at them. Well, you can't. Well, any BM who chooses that, we don't have to talk to him. That's what they said on that other panel, man, earlier this week. That's what they said. We don't have to talk to them. And Kevin Samuels is saying if 30% of your college educated BMs are leaving for non BWs, at some point you're gonna have to have a conversation with them. Well, they
No, they don't
divested.
need to.
Yeah. Well, they divested, so we don't have to have a conversation with them. I'm like, if in the stock market, if you took a 30% plunge in a short amount of time, man, that you know, that's gonna set a lot of alarm bells off, man.
Everybody
restructuring,
now.
fired. Who let this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? I feel like a lot of this stuff comes out on purpose, and they just wait for us to react so they can label us a certain kind of way.
Okay.
You
Who
know
would
what I'm
that be
saying?
though? Who would that be?
Well, you know what? And I think it's the actual El Caminos. They need a bad guy.
The original.
You know what I'm saying?
Then the scapegoat.
They need a bad guy, and they know that we are not going to put up with it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to be the most vocal about it. So be
Right.
easy to label us as, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is always. I mean, this has been the case. Brothers have been fighting. You know, you've been fighting these stereotypes, these narratives that get at least tried to get placed on us for the ones that haven't stuck. You know, we've been fighting this for decades. You know,
It's not even just the El Caminos, because the undercover brother narrative came from BWs.
Yep.
well, and that's why I did what I did over on King Sigma's panel a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the real STI rate, the real STI issue. Where is it at? That's why I did it. Where I talked about where you have black women who have twice the rate of intravenous drug use than black men, but no one ever
And then,
talks about that.
and then somebody actually they need to see a paperwork from that. Who was that?
I was over at the Brother Prophet Adult. Shout out to him. He had me on
Yeah.
his channel last Thursday, and it was myself. I believe it was Supreme King Coon and a couple other brothers, and we were talking about the icy hot stunning. Obviously, what was going on in South Carolina, and there was somebody in the chat that said, "Well, can you show us your stats?" Well, and I was like, "No." I mean, and the person was like, well, I heard you on the panel talking. Well, then if you heard, and I replied, if you heard me on the panel, then you knew where I said I got my stats from, because the person who was leading the panel posted the website, posted both links to the studies, to the website. So you don't need to know. Basically, it was a deflection. When people,
Yeah.
anytime people, you're on these panels, anytime people ask you, well, where'd you get your stats from? It's all a deflection.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly where the hell you got your stats from.
Well, those are the white man stats.
Man, I'm not buying that bull crap. I mean, people look. This is what I mean. Black folks know exactly what the hell's going on out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Who's that?
This is Sigma Jones here.
What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? What's popping?
What up, man? I like your videos, man.
Thank you. No, I just want to jump in real quick. I actually want to thank the Black Brain Trust, because you guys actually kind of helped me with my job search going on.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, definitely. I've been listening to you guys on the IT informations and stuff, and it's been helping me kind of jam pack my resumes and stuff. So I definitely wanted to come on to give you guys a shout out, because the things you guys do is just a treasure trove of information that's bar none. So definitely wanted to shout you guys out.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
How much do you know about the topic we're having right now?
I was listening in on the background. Definitely the topic at hand. I'll put it like this: I've had my fair share run with dikes and everything. And
Hey.
I mean, hey, I don't sugarcoat anything.
No,
you have to on
You
this
gotta-
on
you
this
have
panel.
to, man. You have to.
Okay. My bad.
El Caminos.
El Caminos. Well, this is my first time on this panel, so I'll definitely everything. So yeah, my bad for letting that slip. In fact, that's kind of been my issue, because I'd be too truthful. So gotta work on having my tongue in check a little bit. But I would say I had my fair share of El Caminos. In fact, I kind of had a recent run-in with an old high school friend of mine. Well, I wouldn't say a friend, but acquaintance. And she was one of those El Caminos back in the day. And come to find out, she sent me an email on Facebook, kind of like a love confession. And I had to kind of plainly tell her that actually I'm with somebody right now, and somebody that has actually been with me since my college days. And, best of luck to you.
Oh, so you curved her.
Hey, I just had to be honest. I mean, she seen my profile pictures that I'm with somebody, but I guess she wanted to take her shot.
Well, you're a lame, according to them. You educated lame. What's wrong with you?
Hey, it is what it is. I've been a lame probably since I started watching shows like Dragon Ball Z and such. So I'm already used to that type of talk.
You should be taking care of someone else's kids. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Does she have any kids? Just curious.
Oh, she has at least 3.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Got down to the last 5 eggs.
To me, what I just find interesting is all of a sudden I'm getting these type of messages after it's been made known to everybody that I'm seeing somebody. And, on my social media, I started posting pictures with me and my girl. And then next thing you know, I'm starting getting these DMs. And it's like, look, if I wasn't hollering at you in today's age and everything, don't even try it now. But we know the playbook and everything that's going on. They realize that Mr. Sigma Jones is making moves. I better see if I can curve him. When in actuality, they've already been curved years back. So,
I mean, that was what I was saying earlier about, brothers are not, brothers like yourself and, like those of us on the panel in the chat, you don't get that attention until they see you most likely with a non-black woman. then all of a sudden people want to be all up in your face.
By the way,
this is what Men of Tomorrow. Excuse me. This is what Men of Tomorrow frequently talks about. Is that people self-improving for the wrong reasons. And I'm not saying that this is what this gentleman is doing. Obviously, this is totally the opposite. But a lot of the messages that are promoted is for, you got to come back to the community.
Yeah.
And that essentially is self-improving for the wrong reason, because you come back to the community just based on proximity. Who are you going to couple up with? People from that community that you left behind. This is the reason why you can't.
Self-improving.
Go ahead.
They're self-improving specifically for the purposes of daggling up. That's it. They're not doing anything else but that. They're not going after they're not going after self-improved women who's always been on the up and up. No, they go out there and they dive bomb into the grass and find something for them to go pick up. So that's what they do.
But MOT, one thing I wanted to point out, and you mentioned this on your videos numerous times. You see, for a lot of us brothers here on the panel, as far as thinking brothers, productive brothers, and all, it's very easy if you wanted to be, so to speak, part of that street life and everything. It's very easy to switch over, but it's very hard for somebody from the streets to switch over to our lifestyle. And the thing is, because I won't put it as like a selfish term, but we was always thinking for ourselves before we were thinking of others. And because of that fact, the things that we've experienced and we've gone through, the guys who are from the street, the so-called the select guys, they would have a hard time dealing with our type of world, like the corporate world, the IT world, the business world.
Because there's structure and there are consequences for actions.
Exactly.
That's why they have a hard time with it. Like in their worldview, there is no consequences, and all the bills are paid for by the women that they're chosen by. So, all they gotta do is pretty much just show up. And that's the problem, man. It's just that this doesn't need to keep being our actual image, and it was always going to be incumbent on us to clean up our own image and take it back from these people who keep trying to destroy it. Period.
Well, I also think too that I don't really know about these terms. I don't really subscribe to the idea of whatever this select male, whatever this thing is. But I will say this much, because I've heard Super Triz talk about this, which is that, you can be this kind of guy if you're willing to take away productivity time for yourself to go chase women. Any guy can be that guy if you're willing to take away time from yourself to chase women. So I think that's the other part of it, that these dudes, this is what they build their whole life around, is chasing women.
Well, that's the epiphany I had.
Well, do you think that the rules apply to young MA as well?
Hey, you know what? Hey, while we joking, young MA up to her neck with the trust me.
I would say this much. At least in my personal experience, to keep it real, the females that are in that alphabet lifestyle, they're probably the thirstiest folks I've ever met. Just to keep it real.
Why is that? You want to expand on it?
They are very aggressive. You see them, if brothers ever been out of a nightclub, you run to these kinds of folks, super aggressive. You even look like you're about to talk to a female that they're interested in or they may be with. It's damn near about to be battle at the OK Corral.
But I thought they were select though. They must make them select, right?
I guess so. I guess they're select alphabet. I don't know.
When I see them, man, they be on like some booty warrior type of speech pattern behavior, man. And they like you and they want you.
Well, the thing is, they're changing the rules around based on the situation. So maybe Dr. Phoenix has a point that they are situational in that extent, but take young MA out of the picture and put Nipsey Hussle in there. They're also situational there too, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's strategic based on what they want, because they rather go El Camino before they have to show any type of dude like us respect.
But that's what I'm saying. It's predatory
exactly.
in a way.
It is predatory.
I'm gonna take it a step further since y'all mentioned Nipsey Hussle again, right? So let's bear in mind that Nipsey Hussle is from Eritrea, right? East Africa. You know, I have some people in my family who are married to Eritreans, totally different culture. And you have had several men in the manosphere who have referenced intercultural dating, in some way, shape, form, or another. Maybe different nomenclature for certain individuals, but it all comes back to that same thing where you're dating quote unquote interculturally, even though the women that you're pursuing perhaps are of quote unquote Negroid descent, individuals from Hispaniola, Brazil, perhaps even other areas throughout the world that have populations from the quote unquote diaspora, but they're not of the ADOS culture. But those men are ridiculed for having that sentiment, saying, and the women from those countries are oftentimes referred to as quote unquote dirty foot female dogs. But when it's a male who's from a different culture, because it's the object of their desire, again, they're not held accountable. So like they're not held to the same standard as far as, well, they can date interculturally, but as a black man, you cannot.
Yeah, I mean, because we're apparently their property, and property don't get rights.
Well, I would think.
Well, the black man has no rules. Has no rules that the BW is bound to respect, right?
Well, here's even more. Here's even better example of what I said earlier about the situational comment. If you look at the current mayor of New York, look at his wife.
Oh yeah.
She wrote I mentioned this before, but brothers really need to go check it out. She wrote a very infamous article. It was either in Ebony Asses back in the 70s. She wrote a very infamous article talking about how she was proud to be Alphabet, and she would be Alphabet to the day she died. And what happened? She was working in City Hall, ran across this white man. Here we are, 30 years later. She's the first lady of New York.
Straight as an arrow.
So, I really, brothers, go read that story. It's a very interesting story.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it though. I heard of it though. But
very interesting story, especially when I think she was interviewed. She did an interview. I can't remember which paper or whatever, but she did an interview and she talked about how they met. And I can't think of a time in my life where I really truly heard a black woman talk so smittenly about a black man the way she talked about that white man.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, right? I think King Sigma pointed this out some weeks ago, but they seem to traverse. They go from one extreme to another, right? So if you took de Blasio and gave him some made him melanated, he would be looked over.
Well, see, this the issue that the boy had at the football game when the white girl posted him up and stuff.
Okay.
None of it's. I guarantee you, none of the women that was commenting about leave our man alone and all the rest of the shit, they wouldn't have gave a shit.
Right. So I guess the culture is for in terms of the gynocracy, it's situational in how it deals with class and how it deals with gender and sexuality, but then it holds BM to what's considered to be straight BM to a standard that is so obscure and so outrageous, right? You can never ever reach that standard, right? It's always 10 feet tall, no matter what it is.
Hey, fellas. You guys remember that big open panel that a lot of YouTubers, black male YouTubers are breaking down on Oprah's network with it was like a senator type situation with full of BWs, and they were talking about being BWs and dealing with black men.
There was no BMs there to defend us.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, like if there was a reverse of this on the OWN network, you know how surgical they would be with picking the BMs there to be in that room? They would know.
They'd be the weakest of the weak.
They'll pick 90 of the weakest of the weak, like turncoat dudes from around the world. They would get a space alien before they get a masculine mask. Yeah, you would see like
no, they'll get a white male before they do that. They'll get a WM before they do that.
They'll be like, they'll be like, this is TR1 from the Alpha Quadrant. Like, this dude ain't even black.
He's like, my experience as a South African, I gotta tell you. We're like, what?
They're doing that now. They're doing that now. They're replacing the progressive brothers with bottom shelf Brads, and they'll take his opinion over or his commentary over yours.
Hey, speaking of that bottom shelf Brad, Kid Organic just did a video this morning that y'all got to see.
Oh, really?
And it's about this bottom shelf Brad did some stuff he wasn't supposed to with a black child, and all this happened at her daycare.
Wow.
And nobody's bringing up the fact that his wife was a BW and pretty much allowed him to do what he did.
And the daycare center was called Lil Piggies. Lil Piggies Daycare. Not little, but Lil.
You can't write that. You can't write that.
That's interesting because the guy in South Carolina, the Icy Hot Stun in Carolina, doesn't his parents own a Piggly something shop down there, a restaurant or something like that?
Yes, they do. King Sigma talked about this because he apparently he has some mixed kids with a black woman. Is currently, as far as I know, is married to a black woman. And so,
oh no.
Yo, it's crazy, bro. It is wild. The kid mom want all this justice, this, that, and the third, and like the media completely overlooking like this guy's situation.
So you know what's funny about that South Carolina situation is? How come Charlamagne the God hasn't destroyed this dude? Because I know they know each other because they both from South Carolina, and it ain't that big. Like he has to know him.
Oh
he got his own heat. He just got.
And he was doing the same thing, somewhat, but not as many women. But he was messing with underage girls too.
Well, see, check this out. Even in that instance, now the mom came out. The BW mom came out and said, "I told her not to press charges for the time." And now we want to press charges. It's funny business with that one too.
To me, I think this. Oh, go ahead.
No, you good. I ain't saying nothing.
No. One thing I just find perplexing is the mere fact that the stories are continuing to come out with the DJ kid, and it just seems like each story that comes out, you just kind of like you could just look at the BWs like Malcolm X and be like, okay, what else you got to explain for this? Because to me, the biggest thing I get it is this is just one case that was put on blast at South Carolina. God knows how many more cases like this will come out throughout the entire nationwide. Like the brother said, what the story Kid Organic just posted earlier this morning, you said to yourself, like, how many rabbit holes we got to go down before they start waving the white flag, which obviously it's going to be never.
That's a great point. But it's showing you also, how much their love for the Icy Hot Stunner is over you, regardless how masculine they say you are. Next thing you know,
Exactly.
you see the bottom shelf. He's up in there tearing, running through the joint, man, like Grant ran through Richmond, literally.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, people saying, well, you're not masculine enough. You got to man up. I mean, you just looking at all this. The expose on this is very telling. And I understand. I have to say this. I do understand why a lot of folks do not want to deal with this. I understand it. Not that I agree with it at all, but it's so bad that, you know, most folks they just don't want to look this thing dead in the face for what it is. A lot of brothers and
man, we're just now finding out how bad it is, man. So it's like all this blind faith.
Hold on a second. She's so derelict. You know, people, you know, she's got to have agents to cover her on this, man. Because this is terrible, man.
Well, according to this live stream right here that was posted September 17th, 2019, this person right here says this. This is what's going on.
What did she say? I can't see it. Say it again.
Yeah, I can't see it either. Man, it says sold out the black community. Don't say who.
Well, it says Educated Lanes sold out the black community according to this network over here. Oh yeah. Right, and you know, he'll have a conversation about that, but nothing about what we were just pointing out.
No. They're telling you sold out, but Icy Hot Stunner running through the joint, man. Like, you know, like it's no tomorrow.
Like All Star, Bo Jackson.
Man,
Yeah,
I'm done with that dude. Remember, you guys seen Infinity Wars? Remember in the beginning when the Hulk fought Thanos? That's what it was like when farm animals met Tommy.
Oh yeah,
he destroyed him for like 2 movies. Made him a scientist.
Oh, you're saying that Tommy was Thanos?
Yeah, he turned him into a scientist and made Hulk form.
And that's true. That's actually a good example, because when old boy saw Tommy come on the panel, he said, "Tommy, is that you?" Because remember back in Infinity Wars, it was like,
you?
Remember?
No, remember. Go ahead. You the big dog.
Remember in Infinity Wars, they was like, "There he is, right there, Cap. There he is."
I ain't clout chasing.
Oh, really? Do tell, nigga.
Not clout chasing, but you the biggest dog on the streets.
Mm-hmm. I thought Phil the Advice Show was the biggest dog according to him.
Nope, it's Uncle Tommy. Though when I see Buddy get cornered one time and he just started screaming, "Where's your Becky? Show me your Becky!" I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Now you see why he eats oatmeal every day, man.
Yo, this shit wild, man. You can't make this up, bro.
Hey man, I thought he didn't eat breakfast at all. I thought every morning he puff and then just go back to bed.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying here, man, is that you know, he saw Tommy come. He was like, "There he is, right there, Cap."
Had one of them South Park smiles on. One like a upside down triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. They well, they're actually losing money, man. Because I didn't, you know, I can't see how they're making any money off of that. I mean, who's giving the money to watch them get their ass whooped?
I wouldn't be surprised if he sent them an electronic signature for an autograph from Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Yo, it's just too much, bro. It's way too much going on out here, dog. Just narrative after narrative. Like now they've been dropped to the ground. Now that these narratives getting beat into the ground now.
Yeah, I mean, keep taking L's like Cool J, man.
Double L's.
Speaking of narrative, I don't know if you guys caught the latest news. I know ABL talked about it a bit earlier today, but y'all seen where the so-called doctor, I don't know if she was on CNN or one of those networks, but this doctor came out and said that mathematics is now racist. And as a brother who has graduated with a degree,
Oh no!
but as a brother who has graduated with a degree in mathematics, I am very offended by that statement.
Mathematics.
Well, that's you.
How is it racist? I'm interested to hear the argument. How is
so
this?
Her argument is that the concepts of math is oppressive because it forces an individual to use too much of their brain cells.
Yeah,
Brain power.
She said you shouldn't present stacks in an argument.
Yo, we done, yo. We done. We're done.
So can you imagine now? The next time
No, I don't believe it.
The next time you use any stats when you arguing with these individuals, they're now going to say you racist for using math.
No, because
no, I don't believe it. I don't believe
math is toxic.
I have to see this. I have to see this. I have to see this. I can't.
ABL talked about it, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely online. It's blowing up. Like,
well, nothing surprises me with them when they when I hear people saying, you know, that BWs were the driving force behind Black Wall Street.
Oh, I mean, these are hurt, bitter women. I mean, I listened to somebody sent me a hangout today. I listened to it, and I listened to some female on there, and she said she hated another person, and she wanted to see this person die slowly of a painful disease or whatever, something crazy. I'm just listening to the anger and the hurt from behind all these people. They're mad at each other. They're mad at brothers. They're mad at this. The toxic level and a lot of the hate that's coming out with some of these folks. I have to say, I think it's coming to the point to where I'm almost looking at it as it's being quasi demonic. I don't, and I'm not one to use a lot of religious stuff and all that. You know, I believe in God and all that, but I'm not one of these over the top religious people. I'm definitely not. But the shit I'm hearing from some of these folks, this shit is demonic. I'm sorry, man.
I was on Fantastic Panel, and this chick was screaming out all kind of bitch niggas, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And I just asked her, I said, would you want your son to date a single mother? And silence. You know what I'm saying? She had all this hatred and vitriol, and then I just asked the question, and it was just silent, bro. It was just like,
these folks are over the top, man. They're on some next shit, man. They're ill. They're ill.
And they got their real pictures as avatars. Like, how stupid is that?
Well, them pictures could be of anybody, man. You don't really know.
True.
You know what? You know what? Check this out. Like this just made me think of something, right? So the women that are saying that the driving force behind Black Wall Street was Black women, create another Black Wall Street. If that's the case, let's see you create another Black Wall Street. See, this is the reason why I believe certain constituencies within the ADOS community are so vehemently against repatriating Africa or repatriating the continent, is because there's no infrastructure there. It requires people to actually build. Like you can't go there and just populate the area. You actually have to put boots on the ground and actually build something. You got to put a stake in the ground. You have to probably start from ground zero, start living in tents. Slowly build and go from there. And see, that requires true masculinity, not pseudo masculinity, not just overt aggression. That's not going to work. You're gonna have to use ingenuity, and work ethic, and actually build. And so that's the reason why they're so against that, because they understand what it actually takes. That's the reason why they want to stay right here, and they don't want you to go anywhere either, because you're gonna take your brain power and resources along with you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, Super Triz, I want to ask you this question. Now, as far as when you was improving yourself, and I'm talking about improving as far as schooling, education, certification, when you had help from outside sources, did it came from people of your skin tone or people not of your skin tone?
You know what? The only people that have actually helped me that look like me, or even remotely helped me, was people that's related to me, like my parents or something like that. But I mean, other than that, like nobody from my community reached out. And I'm not. It's not like I'm expecting anybody to. But at the same time, I'm not having blind allegiance to a demographic of people just because we have a similar phenotypical appearance.
Oh, come on,
That's what
man.
I'm not gonna do. That's number one. Number
Come
two,
on,
like again, I've said this before. Part of the problem is that when you see a coupling up of individuals who look alike, there's never any scrutiny, no matter how toxic and how I guess how destructive that relationship is. But when there's a coupling up of somebody, and we see examples of this, you know, within mainstream media, the guy Byron Allen, the individual who donated or who actually paid for repaid student loans for those individuals, and now
Robert F. Smith.
Robert F. Smith, like just by perception, like you see them, who their significant other is, they're automatically discounted. No, regardless of how productive they are, regardless of what their contribution is to their community and to society at large, they're discounted. Whereas somebody who has a destructive relationship, just because it's two people that look alike, all of a sudden we're supposed to co-sign it. We're not supposed to say anything about it. And I think that's part of the problem. That's the reason why we have so many problems in the community, is because there is no scrutiny, because there is no standard.
No, the standard is, if you have to embrace Black dysfunction, because once you start to embrace that, now you're really Black. Now you're down. You're in. Black dysfunction is your qualifier, man. You have to accept a lot of that. You have to accept that.
and mediocrity.
That means that means you're in, man. That dysfunction. Take a look. Just take a look at this sector of Black YouTube right now, where it's just, I don't know what this is devolving into. People are saying you gotta be, to be Black, you gotta accept the hood mentality. And when I say hood mentality, I'm not saying folks who come from the hood, who just come from the hood, but this gangster crap and all this other stuff.
Warrior
that people are
class.
saying, yeah. You were supposed to, these are the guys who stood up for you and all that. I mean, it's just these ill, sick narratives. People can run across the country, wet asses, have babies, and people tell you that's okay, and we can't talk about that. I mean, but yet this person is speaking up for Black folks. I mean, you have to embrace a certain level of extraordinary dysfunction for it to be acceptable, for you to be accepted. That's a big part of this narrative here.
You let them tell it. They'll say that
it's insane.
Freeway Ricky Ross put Keith Black and Ben Carson through medical school. Like,
I mean, if you hear Freeway Ricky Ross now running around talking, he is denouncing this shit. He's like, man, this was the worst going. I mean, and he showed you just how dysfunctional a lot of stuff was. He said he was a dumb motherfucker when he was running around. He said he was stupid. He was playing tennis but couldn't read. And then all of a sudden, he decided, he was going to get into the drug trade. And then he started looking around and started seeing 10-year-old people 10-year-olds walking up to him.
The crazy part about Rick Ross is his actual educating himself got him his freedom. Choosing to educate himself got him out.
There's a great interview with him online here. You guys could look it up, a recent one. But he started to break down, just exactly, he had to free his mind. He realized the damage he was doing. He looked at he said 10-year-olds were walking up to him trying to buy drugs off of him to move drugs in the street, and 10-year-old addicts. He said he started looking at the damage he was doing. He realized he was, in some respect, he was the devil. But these other people pushing these dysfunctional narratives, and that's what's horrifying.
I was going to say,
that qualifies for you to be Black.
According to certain individuals on a recent panel, they said that the drug dealer actually has more social proof than the educated lane.
You just gotta ignore that goofy ass shit.
Oh, I know.
Well, he also said that he is he's a better entrepreneur.
Yeah, I heard him say that too.
Yo, Chris Rock said the best. Drugs do nobody sells drugs. They sell themselves. Like it's not one of them things where basically like, you gotta have advertisements for and a whole bunch of stuff. Like people want they come for it and they're addicted to it. We're not selling chicken sandwiches.
But see that's so counterproductive to the concept of community, because when you look at just based on proximity, who's the customer base for your product, and you look at the trajectory of it, right? Again, so now you have a product which diminishes the productivity of a given population, right? That population or that constituency of that population with diminished productivity. How are they financing their habits? Either through subsidization by the productive force or through theft and other illicit means such as prostitution in order to obtain the resources to purchase that product. Like they're not really looking at the bigger picture here. This is what I'm saying. Like there's no trajectory. They're only looking at the trees. They're not looking at the forest. And this is the reason why like you got to question like how can people like this lead a community? How can they lead anything when they have such a small focal perspective, as opposed to, say for instance, they were in the leadership position. You take somebody with this mentality and put them in a leadership position. Then what happens? We see what happens. We see examples of black quote unquote black leaders who succumb to corruption because they tried to apply that insular principle to a grander scheme and the scope of mayorship and other forms of public service office. It doesn't work. That has no trajectory. That's why people like that should not be allowed a voice. They should not be allowed to lead anything. And you don't see that in other communities, as MOT says all the time.
I was just about to say that.
Yup. That's why I talk against Jay-Z a lot, because it's like, and they try to make it seem like he's changed, but he still rides off this drug dealer persona, and he still performs the same music. So it's like, has he really grown? Like, you got Obama on stage. Basically, the man he did what he needed to do, and he was academically, he was a monster. But then you got a former drug dealer standing next to him, rapper. Like, those are similar.
I'm not mad with Jay-Z. I don't see him no different than Kennedy's, Trump family. I don't see none of them no different. I think he's an excellent businessman. I don't think people should invest in somebody like that as much, but that's not his fault.
I don't know. I think when you're selling drugs to your own people, I think you have to look at that, the sociopathic nature of what that really means.
No,
using
I
your people,
understand that, but
I'm going to say using your people as customers, all right, tearing them out the frame. And in the end, he made some money, but it degraded his overall community on the whole. They know it. At the end of the day, he should know, but he didn't care because he was made wealthy by it. But it did not help your overall community. It didn't help you. Took your ass out. It took your ass out in so many ways.
He can't be the voice of reason that everybody trying to make him be.
Well, here's the thing. Is that really his community? Because we have to, again, we got to start. We really have to evaluate what we mean when we say our community. Like, for instance, like if there's somebody who wants to take their money and spend it on on drugs, mind-altering drugs that diminish their productivity, that's not somebody I necessarily want to be associated with. That's not somebody I would consider part of my
exactly. Now let me tell you, you think that he'd have been a highly lauded character. Think about this. I'm gonna just drop this bomb. I'm gonna drop this mind bomb on you real quick. It's very simple. You think he'd have been in this high position had he been selling all that cocaine and all that yayo to the white community? Okay, if he was in there selling to young white kids all day long, if he was up there in the burbs, think he'd have been a superstar? Think he would have made it for long? I just put that out there and just ask y'all.
No, because unlike the so-called community that we witness, white folks don't praise drug dealers. white folks, for the most part now, maybe the younger generation might be something different, but at least the current white folks that we see here, they're not going to sit up here and praise a drug dealer or drug dealer turned rapper into something that he's not.
At least the mob was smart enough to like.
We got whole white criminal organizations that went legit.
But at least with the.
I don't think that. I just think people put way too much into Jay-Z. He's just not who people want him to be.
But the thing is like, at least the mob was smart enough to be like, okay, my kids are going to go into politics, not me, because I got too much blood on my hands. But the guys who actually did the dirt in the black community go into politics with blood still in their hands, and then people still like look at them like they're respectable, but they're not.
Facts. That's facts right there.
The mob gets a lot of credit for being a powerful organization, and the Gambino family and the Bonanno family specifically, who have very strong ties to the Sicilian mafia, played a very key role in selling drugs and having the pizza connection, all that, the heroin connection, and they brought all those drugs into the country. CIA and all them knew it because they were selling those drugs directly to you. That's how they got down, and a lot of them sat back and rolled around and hung out. They even had with a Carmine Galante. He got killed because he is the head of the family because he refused to share some of his profits that he was making off of this with the rest of the families. But these guys were lauded as looked upon as the mob and the gang, and you see these dumbass Negroes walking around calling themselves Dottie, Irv, and all this kind of these dumb fucking niggas. But yet these were some of the most pernicious, deleterious, individuals that ever existed, and they came after your community and made many hundreds of millions. But yet, here we sitting here lauding these people, lionizing them, at a certain level, and this is literally the effect that they had on your community. They drugged you out and zombified you, turned you into freaking Night of the Living Dead and all this kind of shit.
But that's the problem, Nagone.
This is ill, and that's why you have to consistently beat a drumbeat against this madness. Because when you look at other communities, they're not doing this, but in ours, it's cool. You got to have a consistent drumbeat against this, because you have to consistently just keep tapping this on, just keep banging this drum, keep banging this drum against it. That's a great start. I will say that it's a great start to consistently bang that drum against us. Okay, we have kids. I have a grandson and all this. Some of y'all are gonna have children and everything else like this. So at some point in time, some of y'all will. You have this is to help to protect them. You got to bang that drum, man. Got to bang that drum against it, because this narrative is it's patently insane when you start to sit down and break it down and really think about it. It's insane. But this is something that we are actually embracing now. We can't. We got to consistently beat that drumbeat against this.
I do want to add this, since we were talking briefly about Jay-Z. If I remember correctly, isn't his mother also a member of the Alphabet Crew?
Yes.
Okay, so just to bring this full circle about him, just want to put that out there.
Well, and then also, there's a false parallel between like the individuals that named themselves after mafioso figures, versus the mafioso figures themselves, is that there's a certain code that, what they were doing shouldn't adversely impact their community. Like, they didn't sell certain things to people in their own community. They sold it to other people outside of the community. And so that's the reason why they're lauded and praised, because, they basically, it was like two birds in one stone.
They were respected for it.
They killed tons of their own people, bro.
They were respected.
Laid them down. Their own people, relatives.
Well, but think about this though. Those are individuals that were in the lifestyle. So like once you're in a lifestyle, you kind of forfeit, you forfeit your life, because now you're engaged. Like if Like if you're
You
not
off the porch.
actually part of that, huh?
You off the porch. You playing with the big boys.
Yeah. So like you got a choice. Like you don't got to be, you could be a quote unquote square. You don't have to be a part of that lifestyle. So people that's involved in that lifestyle, I mean, you really can't have any sympathy for them. But at the same time, here's the thing, you basically impeded the progress of a potential adversary, the quote unquote ADOS community, by zombifying them. And then also you took resources from that community and brought it back to your own community. So that was like a two bird and one stone, kind of, frontal attack against our particular community. But then you see the people that emulate these mafioso figures, they don't emulate that particular aspect. What they're doing is they're basically taking money from their own community and lining their own pockets and destroying their own community in the process. Like there is no net benefit except for the people within their immediate circle.
Okay, I just want to say something. And somebody in chat, somebody's like, well, so killing people in your own neighborhood was respectful. Now you're talking about the mob would kill folks in their neighborhoods. Bensonhurst, Howard Beach, these communities that are run by the Italian American Mafia are some of the safest communities and are considered some of the best communities to live in New York City.
And Philly too. And the Philly mob, the Italians, like it's really safe. Like
yeah. I know the whole game down there with the old Scarfo crew and all that, and all. Yeah. I mean, we know the whole deal, but yet, we talk about, especially here in New York, where you have five, not one family or two, but you have five families. These neighborhoods that are run by the Italian American Mafia. Where you got a John Gotti on a tape. So this is going to be a La Cosa Nostra till I die. I mean, all this kind of crap. You guys talking all this kind of shit. And in his neighborhood, you can't steal a fucking necklace without somebody putting a hit on your ass. Okay. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I know I'm talking a slightly different point here. That's a little deeper than those might want to deal with. But this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, the crack generation didn't produce senators.
Yeah, I mean, they ran a lot of politics and everything else like that. But I'm
talking the ADOS guys who sold drugs to their own people. They didn't produce senators. They
didn't produce shit, and they protected nothing.
All right. The drug dealers of the 80s, they produced Dapper Dan. That's what they produced.
And Tommy Hilfiger.
You basically all they did was conspicuous consumption. You might have created a little industry for somebody like Dapper Dan to come up because he's able to, to sell high-end products and, to that certain population. I mean, but other than that, they haven't empowered anybody. Nobody was empowered because of what they did. See, at the end of the day, you got to look at the net gain. Not just a gain. Look at the net gain. So you take whatever you gain and you subtract from that the amount of destruction that you cause. The black community is at a net loss. It's simple mathematics. That's why that lady. That's why that lady so against mathematics. Because when you start doing the math, you're like, wait a minute, this don't add up.
We get mad.
Hey, listen. Let me tell you something. Right now, I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, but I did take algebra and pharmacology, pertinent to what it is that I do, and it's very simple. What I'm seeing in the ADOS community doesn't add up. There seems to have been more destruction than there was gain. I mean, what do you think, MOT?
Well, hey, Trill, let me tell you something, bro.
That's the way it was.
Like that whole era, I was born out of it. I seen it, bro, and I agree. My dad always talk about what he should have did with his money, bro. And my uncle died in prison, and my other uncle just got out like 5 years ago. He didn't see his kids till they was grown, bro. He seen them like 3 times their whole life, bro. Like I know the destruction of that. For somebody to get out of that shit, I myself, I just think Jay-Z is an easy target. And people like to you know what I'm saying, bang on him. I don't even think he was as big as people think he was.
Oh, he definitely wasn't. He definitely wasn't like a big time figure. I mean, the reason why he got big is because he actually had an exposure through rap. But as far as what he did, you know, on the street level, as far as criminality, he was really a small time figure. But I mean that's beside the point. The point is that that's besides the point. The problem is that somebody like Jay-Z is a voice for people, and
No,
because
that's a problem. I agree.
that
That's
yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, he
And to
promotes
be
that
honest,
lifestyle. He's the back door. He's the back door for that thug culture to come to be like, we still need to be this type of guy. Because basically he's the reformed thug. He's reformed
And the
thug
thing about it
story.
is the big problem is that people look at that as an avenue for success, when really reality is not. Like, Jay-Z represents an extremely small percentage of the population. I have so many people in my family who try to emulate that pathway, and only thing they have to show for it is extensive prison records and inability to progress.
no,
That's all they have to show for it. Like, they'll never be Jay-Z. They'll never be anything close to what he is. And there's a lot of people, across the nation from the ADOS community that look at that as well, because you know what they think. What they think is, okay, that's an easy route. Like, they look at it, well, I don't gotta go to school. I don't gotta sacrifice. I can have fun the entire ride up, like Jay-Z did.
I ain't tell you to sell drugs. Hov did that. So hopefully you ain't had to go through that. Like that type of back talking stuff. Like it's like conundrums that basically trip people up into doing the same dumb thing.
I'm gonna tell you this, bro. If he would have never placed himself as that guy and he didn't take on any responsibility, I don't think nobody would care, to be honest. But he put himself out there and say, I'm doing it for this and I'm doing it for that. And he put himself in a place where he could never do enough to make everybody happy.
I think it's the persona. It's like basically it's not like Malcolm X changed who he was entirely. This guy still rides off that. Like, you can't talk about how much you want your community to be better and then do a concert the next day talking about moving keys. Like, it doesn't work like that. You got to move on the whole way.
It's working like that.
Let's go to Professor Zulu. He had his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say that our community is plagued with what I call the triangular scapegoat, which is people thinking that you're either going to make it out of rapping or trapping or becoming an athlete, which is wrong. And I'm gonna give up a little bit of research. That's according to the NCAA research. It was out of 2016. Now, out of 500,000 males in high school basketball, only 3.5 of them become NCAA participants. And out of 18,000 NCAA male basketball players, only 1.1% of them become athletes into the major pros. And people don't understand that. And I see this day and age in our community, a lot of them are trying to make them athletes. A lot of them are trying to make them jocks, and that's also posing a big threat to us too. So we got to take that into consideration. For example, also people, excuse me, people always trying to, think that, rapping is a way out. But if you look at Spotify, there's another research that I took a look at, and, per song, you could vary at a 0.006 cents to 0.0084 cents per song, meaning that, it may have to take you like an ample amount of like stream plays just for you to just make enough money to just put gas to fill your gas tank, for that week. So I don't know, man. That's just something that I want to just put out there.
Hey, Sigmund Jones got his hand up.
Yeah, what Professor Zulu was talking as far as the athletics, I have a personal story that pretty much correlates to what he's talking about as far as with the sports aspect. Back in college, I was a tutor, and I talked about this on one of my previous videos and everything, but I had to assist tutoring one of the football players at my school. And so this guy, he currently is still in the NFL, and he was really good in college too, but he was struggling with basic algebra, which in college for my school it was college algebra, which was like beginning level. So they asked me if I could help assist him with tutoring, and so there was one particular problem I was working on him with, and it was pretty much just a basic Y variable, find what Y is using X and whatnot. So I told him that, with this particular problem, you can solve it by just using order of operations, just work backwards. And for 3 minutes, the brother was just looking at the problem and then just looking up at space and then repeating. So I just asked him up front, it's like, do you know how to do order of operations? And he just straight up looked me dead in the eyes and told me, brother, I have no clue what order of operations is. And that for me was a wake up call right there, because I'm thinking to myself at that point, here's a man who is physically gifted. I mean, athletically gifted in his own right. Yet the man doesn't know how to do basic math. And I said to myself, ain't no way this guy outside of football is going to be able to have a normal life unless he some miraculous event somehow helps him have a secure life outside of football and everything. Not much was going to go for him. And being that he's not the only one, and how this is a recurring pattern that I saw within a lot of Black athletes, it was very troublesome. But they were sold this belief that somehow if they can make it into the pros, that they somehow going to become that Cinderella story, only to find out that at best, less than 1% of y'all is going to be able to live that dream.
Now, here's the thing. How many athletes that you know created recreational activity programs, after school programs, real legitimate things to help out the community? From what I know,
many of them do.
Yeah, okay, but we don't see a lot of these. We don't see a lot of awareness of this in the media.
Well, we covered that a lot on here. We covered Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics actually working with MIT and bringing a new platform to predominantly Black neighborhoods in Boston. So we know that they're doing this. The media may not be highlighting it, but they're actually doing it. I think a lot of teams also have agreements with cities that they have to contribute a certain amount, a percentage of their time to community service and stuff like that. So all these initiatives are already on the table for all leagues.
Yeah. Tobias Harris gave
Deion
up like
Sanders got an
200,000.
excellent charter school here in Dallas.
Who did that?
Yeah.
Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jalen Rose got a school. Tobias Harris from the Sixers, he gave up like 200,000 to like a library program for kids to start reading and stuff. Yeah, athletes give a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a part of the league's philanthropy initiatives. So they do invest a lot. Now, what happens to it and what happens to the constituents in the end, I don't know. But from what I've seen, they seem to do a considerable amount. That being said, a lot of it is a tax write-off, to be quite honest. But there's still something being done. I think that we as members of the Black Brain Trust thinking Black men don't do enough to involve ourselves in the decision making of that aspect, in steering those initiatives into where they really need to be, because if you leave it up to the league and the franchises, they'll just do the bare minimum rather than going over the top, where it should be. So
you care about the end product and whatnot, that actually kids benefited from it.
Well, they don't, they're doing it from their perspective, and we should actually be organized in a way that actually have that conversation.
That is true. That is like, it is the people on the grounds, because they made the money. So it's the people on the grounds, grassroots level should be implemented for the betterment of the children or whatever, or the teenagers or whatnot.
Yeah, we shouldn't have young MA, setting up doll houses for
Oh no.
For Black Girl Magic.
Yeah, but I mean, we do need to get out of that, though. I agree on that as making the boys into jocks. You know what I'm saying? It's no shortage of little league stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should encourage, you know what I'm saying, trying to get incubators and stuff like that set up in the neighborhoods.
Right, right. I find nothing wrong with sports, like but it's just the they OD on it. We OD on it in like the BC a little bit too much. We OD
But you
on
know
the
what,
sports.
hey, Mike, you know what? These daycare centers, they charge like $200 something a child every week, right? And I did the math on that, and I was like, they can afford to have actual college educators in these schools with these young children.
You
They
about
can
to start a
afford it.
war. You about to start a war.
No, I'm dead ass serious. Take the salary of what a teacher makes, right? You can pay them more than what they will make working in a public school situation.
So
And you just have them there for early childhood development, actually educating the children with some type of curriculum.
the Ty City, you making too much sense. I used to work at a daycare center in West Virginia. That's why my wife worked there. She helped me get a job there, and she would try to teach the kids there like ABCs, 1, 2, 3s before they were supposed to like know it. They told her to stop because it's not their job to do it. It's concerted efforts against that type of thing to try to get them kids like primed and ready. I don't know what how it is other places, but like in West Virginia, they would stop you from trying to teach kids to try to level them up like that.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. I just did the math on all the kids they had in this daycare, and I'm like, it's absolutely no reason why these children shouldn't be sitting down tracing letters and stuff like that.
Well, I was gonna say something. Let me not say that. But any closing thoughts, man, before we close out?
Well, fellas, I gotta jump off for a bit, but thanks for having me on tonight. Definitely look forward to more conversations you guys have coming up.
Yeah, definitely, fam. Definitely. Thank you for coming through, man. Yo, hit the like button if you have not already done so. We got 100 people, over 100 people in the room. Share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Peace and shalom to everyone.